Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto was helped by Kisuke Urahara. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by MODERNROGU11 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. Unexpected result. What the? Who are you? For someone as good as Minato Namikaze, he was still expected to make a few mistakes. Sure, he is the fourth Hokage, the most feared shinobi of the village hidden in the leaves. However, he was still human, and humans are prone to make mistakes occasionally. This situation, however, was not supposed to be one of those instances. He looked at the ceiling array he constructed. He thought he would be able to summon the dreaded Soul Reaper. Is there something wrong with the seal? He thought as he scanned the intricate markings that he constructed to perform this forbidden technique. There was none. So, what went wrong? And more importantly, what did he summon instead? He did summon a tall, lean, pale man with light messy blonde hair, with strands covering his nose's bridge. He wore a black hakama under a white haori with the kanji for 12 inside a diamond shape embroidered at the back. On his waist was a white sash that strapped a wooden walking cane. In his hands were an orb-like object and a fan. Okay. Where the hell am I? 1 minute I was adding the finishing touches to the prototype of my latest invention, and then suddenly I find myself in the middle of a forest. Those were the only thoughts of the blonde as he scanned the area, wondering how he got there in the first place. When he turned around, he saw a man with bright spiky blonde hair and a woman with long red hair. Between them was a small altar. On the altar was a baby having the same shade of blonde as the adult and 3 whisker-like birthmarks on each side of his cheek, blissfully asleep and completely unaware of what was going on. He guessed that the two were a couple and the infant was their child. I'm not sure if this is the right time to ask, but are you the Soul Reaper? Minato asked the other blonde, seeing no other option than throwing a question to the man in front of him. Of course not. How could someone as handsome and perverted as I can be the Soul Reaper? The mysterious blonde answered comically. A blob of sweat appeared on Minato's forehead. Pervert. Oh god. This guy reminds me of Master Jiraiya. Seeing the confusion in Minato's eyes, the mysterious blonde recognized that the situation required some serious attention. Relax. My name is Kisuke Urahara and I am, in fact, a Soul Reaper. A Soul Reaper? The question was asked by the female Redeed who emphasized Kisuke's implied idea of multiple Soul Reapers. You mean, there are others? Why yes. A whole army to be exact, Kisuke casually replied as he opened his fan to cover his mouth. This wasn't what the couple were expecting. The two thought that the dreaded Soul Reaper would look like some hideous monster. They think it had red eyes, fangs, horns, an ugly face, and other horrific features, while carrying some sort of weapons like a knife or a scythe. They thought of a scythe. Instead, they got a self-proclaimed pervert of a man dressed up like a samurai who claimed he was a Soul Reaper. Not only that, he was an oddball. Let's not forget that said Soul Reaper also claimed that there were others like him. Everything taught to Minato and his wife during their time at the academy was far from what Kisuke was saying. This is the farthest thing we'd expect from a Soul Reaper. Their thoughts were then interrupted by the other blonde. By the way, are you the people who brought me here? We are. My name is Minato Namikaze and this is my wife, Kushina Uzumaki. A pleasure to meet both of you. Now, if I may ask, what is that? Kisuke asked as he pointed his now closed fan to a particular creature. The said creature was a gargantuan fox that stood at around 100 meters in height. It had orange-brown fur with human-like limbs and large ears. The most distinguishing feature of the beast were the 9 long tails that were thrashing with reckless abandon. Upon closer inspection, the raging animal emitted something akin to spiritual energy. He sent out a pulse of spiritual pressure to see how the creature's power would react to his own. Strange. There is spiritual energy within this creature, but something feels off. Like it's diluted somehow. Well, whatever it is, that thing sure has a crap ton of it. Beware. The beast let out a blood-curdling roar that could be heard for miles. Its sights finally fell upon the 3 individuals. Kisuke can see the desperation etched in the eyes of the couple, especially Minato. This creature was a threat that needed to be dealt with. His lax demeanor then shifted to a more rugged look. You summoned me here, right? Both Minato and Kushina nodded. Well then, tell me what to do. We're going to seal that thing. The blonde Hokage points at the 9-tailed fox, into my son he then points to the baby on the altar. Okay. What I just heard is questionable at best and downright suicidal at worst. Upon thinking, Kisuke asks, aside from your questionable parenting decisions, have you ever tried to kill it? Or maybe just drive it off somewhere? We tried. Kushina was the one to answer this time. We could have if it was killable. That thing is made of pure chakra. Even if its physical body is destroyed, it's still going to reform. Besides, it regenerates quickly. So that's what it's called. He remarked to himself as his thoughts now made more apparent as to what this foreign energy he sensed in the beast. This chakra has properties like spiritual energy, but I sense something else mixed into it. I need to do some research on chakra soon. Suddenly, the creature started gathering chakra into a massive sphere. Oh, no. Minato muttered aloud in fear as he recognized this attack. It's going to launch a tailed beast bomb. Seeing the fear in Minato's voice, Kushina immediately ran in front of the men and faced the raging monster. What are you, crazy? Kisuke yelled at the Reed at what seemed like a reckless move. That assumption was swiftly changed when Kushina summoned glowing chains from her body that immediately impaled the said creature and bound it to the ground. The ball of chakra it tried to gather imploded and injured the fox instead. The Soul Reaper noticed that the chains that glowed in a golden hue also had the same chakra properties. It seems that chakra can be used offensively. I wonder if it could also be used defensively. Both the Hokage and the Soul Reaper breathed a sigh of relief, though Minato knew that those chains, powerful they may be, won't hold the angry fox for long. Mr. Urahara, he called to the other blonde, we need to do this now. There's no telling when that thing will break free from those chains. I've been thinking, Urahara began, sealing that thing into your son will be dangerous. There's a possibility that the massive energies might be too much for his body. He can take it, Minato confidently replied, which caused Kisuke to raise an eyebrow. How so? His chakra system is still underdeveloped, so the massive chakra of the fox won't flood his body. Not only that, he's in Uzumaki. Their clan members are selected as containers for these kinds of creatures. Chakra systems. This just got more interesting. Add to the fact that this kid is from a long line of powerful chakra users. This begs the question, though. Did Minato marry Kushina just to give birth to a powerful child? Well, it's not my place to pry. There is a way we can lessen the risks. This got both Minato and Kushina hopeful. However, Kisuke added, but it's not guaranteed. I need to know if you're willing to take that risk. Both Kushina and Minato looked at each other, as if finding assurance from one another. They each gave the nod and said to Kisuke, do it. Why? If this boy survives, he's never going to live a normal life, you know. Do you want that? We have faith in our son, Kushina said with conviction in her words. If there is anyone who can overcome the burden of carrying this great beast, it's our kid, Minato added. Besides, I'd rather see him live than die at the hands of that monster. Taking in their words, Kisuke Urahara has finally decided. Well, since I'm here, might as well help you out. Binding spell number 99 ver. 2. Complete restriction. Kisuke dug his hands into the ground and suddenly, strips of white fabric started to wrap around the body of the fox. The material slowly crept onto the creature's body, gradually encasing the entire animal, making it look like a mummy. Out of nowhere, giant metallic spikes fell and impaled the fox, rendering it immobile. If that wasn't enough, a massive metal cube crashed onto the mummified fox, completely sealing it. Damn. So, this is the power of a Soul Reaper. Minato had his mouth agape, still processing what he witnessed. I hope that thing doesn't escape from that. Kushina released her chains, thinking that it won't be needed. We need to start the sealing process. These words caught the attention of the couple as they rushed over to Kisuke. That box won't hold that thing for long. You two need to start doing whatever it is you're planning to do. I thought whatever you did would be enough, remarked the Reed. Sadly, no. The fox has ridiculous amounts of chakra. Half of it is what I call spiritual energy, which is more than enough it needs for it to break out. Just then, an arm bursts out of the metallic cube. It swung from side to side, tearing the metal cube as another limb emerged. Both the fox's arms pried the cube open for its head to come out. The fox was so angry that it fired a tailed beast bomb prematurely. Shit. Kisuke cursed. Focus on the seal. I'll handle the attack. Destructive spell number 99. 5 Dragon Destruction. A flux of red energy erupted from the ground until 5 massive pillars emerged. These pillars then conjured 5 red dragons that charged at the incoming ball of concentrated chakra. When the two powerful attacks collided, an enormous explosion shook the area as the part of the forest where the collision occurred was decimated, leaving a gigantic crater in its wake. You're strong, you know that. The Soul Reaper said, impressed at the creature's power. He was panting. Using 2 level 99 Kidm spells in quick succession took a considerable toll on his spiritual reserves. But he wasn't finished. Far from it. For the Hokage and his wife, they were witness to an incredible display of power. The kind of battle they were seeing was beyond their capabilities, even for people of their caliber. Here is a Soul Reaper that graced their presence and fighting head-to-head with a walking natural disaster. Suffice to say, both Minato and Kushina felt like insects compared to the two duking it out. I feel small compared to those two. Such power. But I get the feeling that Mr. Urahara hasn't even shown his true abilities yet. The fourth Hokage's thoughts were proven correct when a massive surge of pressure suddenly put him and his wife down on their knees. Their son, who was still unable to detect such power, was unaffected by the force. That said, the energy came from none other than Kisuke Urahara as he took out his walking cane and pulled the handle and the body apart, revealing a short thin blade of a wakizashi. The two shinobi could see the look on the Reaper's face. The once laid-back and goofy look was replaced by cold and calculating eyes, whose silver pupils were directed towards the feral creature. Suddenly, a burst of red energy engulfed the sword-wielding man as the pressure further intensified. The power glowed a bloody red as it gushed out of Kisuke's body and slowly made its way to his sword. Even the beast felt the immense pressure released by the death god and, in its eyes, showed an expression that you never thought possible. Fear. And with a low voice, Kisuke uttered the words that sealed the fate of the demon fox. Awaken now, Benihim. Hiruzen Sarutobi had the worst day possible. First was the death of his wife Bawako, next is the village he used to lead was now in turmoil, and the cherry on top was the nine-tailed demon fox, wreaking havoc in the said village. The only good thing that happened was that Minato led the fox away from the people and into an unpopulated area. Right now, he was rushing with his Anbu guard to the scene of the battle between the fourth Hokage and the dreaded tailed beast. Along the way, he witnessed the struggle happening from afar and was curious. He recognized the chakra chains were from Kushina, but the restraining that followed was something he saw for the first time. White fabric encased the gigantic fox until it was completely covered. Then giant spikes impaled the creature, binding it down until it was smacked by a massive metallic cube. It was a jutsu he'd never seen before if you could ever call it one. It may not have permanently sealed the demon. It was impressive nonetheless considering that it had hindered the demon fox entirely before it got free. He saw the beast free itself from its constraints and launched a ball of concentrated chakra. He feared for the lives of the current village leader and his wife, together with their newborn child. What he saw next was even more unbelievable. 5 massive pillars emerged from the ground and conjured blood-red energy dragons that went head-on with the tailed beast bomb and neutralized it. He was dumbfounded that the tailed beast bomb, which arguably was the most potent chakra-based attack, was repelled. He knew that despite Minato's skill, impressive they may be, is beyond this capability. This could only mean one thing. Minato has help from an unknown individual. Whoever this person is, I'm glad he's on our side. Suddenly, Hiruzen and his Anbu were brought down to their knees by a colossal amount of pressure. It wasn't killing intent. No, it was more potent. One of his Anbu gave in and fell unconscious. What is this? The old Sarutobi could only utter in disbelief as he struggled to maintain consciousness. Lord Saruto, an Anbu operative, barely called his superior's name until he too succumbs to the weight. His power, Hiruzen tried to stand up using his bow staff. Whoever this person is, his power is beyond any cage. The enormous pressure further intensified, causing more of his Anbu to drop down like ragdolls. The only ones who were left conscious were the aged former Hokage and Anbu captain, barely keeping themselves awake from the massive spike of the suffocating power. However, just as the enormous energy increased, it mysteriously died down. Mustering what little strength he had left, he and his Anbu captain quickly made their way to the source of the godlike pressure. Then, a flash of red light shined. As the red energy subsided, the wakizashi in the hands of Kisuke changed. What was once a simple-looking sword was now an elegant yet deadly instrument of battle. The sword was sleek and medium-sized. Its blade was slightly thicker than before. The blade's heimin is straight, black-colored with a silver edge with the tip pointing to a razor-like point instead of a taper. Its handle was covered by black decorative wrappings. Instead, the blade itself has no guard. It has a U-shaped habaki covering the first 3 inches of the edge with a petal engraving. At the base of the heimin is a red string wrapped around thrice the hilt, with a 3-loop bow on the backside and paper-folded decorations on the front side. The handle's end leads to a sharp bend, with a crimson tassel attached to the pommel. What the hell? His sword changed. I sense a massive amount of power from that weapon, but it's not chakra. It's pure and more potent. Minato knew for a fact that all life forms possess chakra, regardless of the amount. However, when he tried to sense the chakra of Kisuke Urahara, he found none. Instead, the energy of the Soul Reaper was nothing like chakra. It was more potent and powerful. If anything, he believed right then and there that whatever power Kisuke was using was far more refined than chakra. Of course, the sword-wielding blonde was technically not alive, so it made sense that he'd use something else as a source of energy. Kushina was a master swordswoman during her tenure as a shinobi. She knows how to use swords and the craftsmanship that goes into making one. When she was able to see Kisuke's transformed sword for the first time, she was amazed. The design was something to be admired. The blade was long enough to keep an enemy at a good enough distance, but short enough to be wieldable in one hand. The handle had an ergonomic design that was good to the hand and easily maneuverable. The decorative ornaments made the weapon elegant and beautiful. Indeed, it was a weapon of grace and power. Such a magnificent sword were the only words she was able to say. The Soul Reaper turned and faced the couple and took out the orb he was carrying when he arrived. "Take this," said the blonde. Curious, Minato reached out and accepted the strange object. He and Kushina looked at it and felt a presence emanating from the orb. It was pulsating a faint glow, and to their surprise, it seemed like it was alive. "That is my latest invention. I call it the Mjioku, or the breakdown sphere." "What does it do?" Kushina inquired. "Theoretically, it breaks down the boundaries between mortals, souls, hollows, and gods." Now that statement caused their eyes to widen. What they are holding right now could probably be the most powerful object in all of creation. "Kisuke Urahara. Who exactly are you?" Captain of the 12th Division of the Court Guard 13th Squadron and the founder of the Research and Development Unit. Former head of the Detention Corps and leading scientist of Soul Society. None other than the handsome and perverted Kisuke Urahara. For both Minato and Kushina, being in the presence of a Soul Reaper was an honor. However, upon finding out that this Soul Reaper is a captain, just elevated their respect for the Deathbringer. Even if his self-introduction was a bit whimsical, that didn't lessen the respect they have for him. Their thoughts were brought back from the shock when Kisuke called them. "I want you to use that when we begin to seal that creature." Kushina and Minato snapped out of their confusion. "How?" Minato asked. "Concentrate your energy, this chakra of yours, into that orb. If what I'm guessing is correct, we'll be able to purify and merge the soul of that monstrosity into your son." "What was your plan originally anyway?" "We were supposed to seal half of the fox's chakra into Naruto and half into me," Minato replied. "I see. The Mjioku will amplify the powers of your seal, but at a cost." This caught Kushina's attention. "What is it?" "You will completely exhaust yourselves. This will drain all of your spiritual energy." "It will kill us," Minato said in a flat tone. "Yes, it will." They had expected this both. Minato and Kushina knew that they might die if they were the least bit successful. Regardless of the outcome, they were determined to stop this rampaging tailed beast and save their son and the village. "We were expecting it anyway," they both replied in unison. Kisuke smirked. These two people were willing to sacrifice their lives for the sake of their loved ones. That is something that he respected. "You two might be the bravest or the craziest husband and wife I've ever met. There is a silver lining in this, though." "What is it?" Kushina asked. "When you pour your chakra into that orb, a portion of your souls will be brought inside your son. The fox included. In a nutshell, you two get to spend time with your son." Seeing the expressions on their faces change from sadness to hope gave Kisuke the confirmation that they're now more than willing to go through with it. "Okay. Start the process while I handle this," he said as he disappeared. Whoa. Where did he go? The fourth Hokage was known for his unrivaled speed. His signature jutsu, the Flying Thunder God, enabled him to move instantaneously from one spot to another. This was the same jutsu that annihilated the forces of the Hidden Stone Village during the Third Great Shinobi War. What Kisuke showed was beyond anything he can do with his famous technique. He didn't notice where that Soul Reaper had gone to. He and his wife scanned the area, and when they looked up, they saw him standing on thin air. What the hell? Kushina was speechless as she was looking at the figure standing above them. "Hey." They snapped out from being dumbstruck. "As much as I like the attention, you should focus on the seal." And they did. The nine-tailed fox was the strongest of the tailed beasts. The very whip from one of its tails can cause tsunamis. Even the mightiest of shinobis such as Madara Uchiha and Hashirama Senju faced great difficulty against this behemoth. But a Soul Reaper was a different story. The fox isn't fighting a human. No, this time it is fighting a Deathbringer. This being can't send it to hell, literally. The fox opened its mouth and launched several miniature balls of chakra towards the floating swordsman. In response, Kisuke brought his sword forward vertically with the blade pointing down. "Breath, Benihim," he said as a thick blood-red hexagonal mist barrier covered both him and the two shinobi below. "Shred, Benihim." From the shield came a barrage of red energy projectiles that met the fox's attack, matching it blow for blow. Seeing its chakra attacks useless, the fox quickly ran forward to try and defeat its adversary by physical means. Realizing what it's up to, Kisuke disappeared from the fox's side and appeared above it. "Scream, Benihim," he cried as he swung his sword and released an arc of red energy at the beast. The fox was agile, as it could dodge the attack and tried to counter by striking with its claws. Kisuke saw this move and defended with his blood mist shield. The defense held but sustained massive damage from that one swing. God, that was close. If that thing ever hit me, I'm screwed. I need to deal some damage to it. Razor, Benihim. Another arc of red energy emerged from the blade. The fox tried to dodge, but was surprised that the red power followed. It tried to cover itself with its right limb, only to see its forearm lopped off. The beast cried out in agony as blood poured out from its severed hand while not realizing Kisuke was going for another attack. Behind Benham. A dark red net emerged from the blade and wrapped around the agitated fox. Play with fire, Benham. He stabbed the end of the black net and bubbles began to appear on the net as it swelled with energy. Upon reaching the limit, the bubbles finally erupted in a dazzling show of red explosions. When the dust settled, the once mighty beast lay beaten, unable to get to its feet. It was still alive, but it was weakened to the point that it was now helpless. The Soul Reaper looked towards the altar and saw that Kushina and Minato were almost finished pouring their energy into them Jyoku. Suddenly, 2 hooked spirit chains came out of their bodies and latched onto the weakened fox. One chain which came from Minato was glowing a bright yellow, while the other that came from Kushina glowed a bright red. These hooks retracted and pulled out the chakra and the soul of the tailed beast. The chakra, taken by Minato's chain, immediately sealed it with their sun, while the fox's soul was purified first. The red chain infused a spiritual energy into Naruto's soul. The process was now finished. The once mighty tailed beast vanished, its corporeal form dissipating into nothingness. Severely exhausted, both in chakra and spiritual essence, the father and mother fell to their knees and collapsed onto the ground. Kisuke appeared right in front of them to assess their situation. Just as he thought, they were dying. Too much of their spiritual energy was used to enforce the seal. The amount of chakra they expended was at a critical level. Thank you Mr. Urahara. Without your help, the village and most importantly our beloved son, Minato said as his voice slowly weakens. Yes, Kushina's voice, too, begins to falter. You helped us save our son and given us the chance to be with him, even if we won't get to be able to hold him. You're welcome, the Reaper replied. Do you have any parting words for your son? We do, the Redeed then looked at the boy as Kisuke picked the infant and placed him between his dying parents. Naruto, don't be a fussy eater. Eat a lot and grow up to a big boy. Take a bath every day and go to sleep early as well. Make friends. It doesn't matter how many. Just make sure they're real friends. Even a few is enough. Study your ninjutsu. I was never that good at it. Don't feel bad if you don't get it right away. Everyone has things they're good at and I'm sure you'll find something you're good at too. Just be sure to listen to your teacher at the academy. And remember, avoid the 3 vices of shinobis. First, don't borrow money if you can help it and save what you earn on missions. Second, no drinking until you're 20 and don't overdo it or you'll ruin your body. Finally, women, I don't know what to say. I know that you'll want a girlfriend someday. Just remember to choose someone who will genuinely love you for who you are, regardless of the burden you carry. And the 4th warning, watch out for Master Jiraiya. Minato chuckled as his wife continued, Naruto, you're going to experience a lot of pain and suffering. Remember who you are. Find a goal, a dream and don't stop trying until it comes true. A pool of tears began to well in the corner of her eyes at the thought that she may never see her son. There's so much more I want to say, to teach you about. I want to stay with you. I love you. She looked up to Minato. I'm sorry, love, I took all your time. It's okay, dear, the husband assured her. Minato then caressed the cheek of his infant son. Naruto, this is your father. I guess I have nothing to say left since your mother pretty much took care of it. Just listen to your motor mouth, mother, he said with a grin. He then handed back them Jyoku to Kisuke as they noticed Hiruzen and his Anbu approach them. Minato. Kushina. The aged Sarutobi cried as he reached the dying couple. Lord Hiruzen, Minato called the former Hokage, this is my son Naruto. I managed to seal the fox inside him. Mr. Urahara here helped me, he said as he pointed to his son and then to the Soul Reaper. What would you have me do, Minato? Hiruzen asked. The village may see me as their savior, but my son is the real hero by keeping that fox at bay. Please, Hiruzen, let the village know that my son is their true protector. That is our wish. I'll do everything I can, Minato, replied the elder Hokage. Thank you. Minato then looked to his wife. Kushina, you gave me the greatest gift a man could ever have. You made me a father. Though I may not spend my days with you and Naruto, I'm happy all the same. Oh, Minato, Kushina began to cry. My life as a Jinchuriki has been a hard one, but when you came to my life all the sadness and loneliness you took it away and replaced it with love. You and Naruto are the greatest gifts I could ever ask for. I love you. I love you too, dear, Minato replied as their breath slowly waned. In a final act of parental affection, both Minato and Kushina wrapped their arms around their son and together said their final words. I love you, Naruto, they both said as they finally draw their last breath and left the mortal plane. Such love. A shame that the chance to be a family was robbed from them. Kisuke plunged his sword into the ground and got down to one knee. Minato Namikaze. Kushina Uzumaki. It was an honor to meet such brave people like you. Rest assured that your spirits will go to Soul Society. I will personally see to that. He then stood up and pulled his sword. The weapon reverted to the wakizashi it used to be and inserted it back into its sheath. "Thank you for your help, stranger," Hiruzen said to the tall blonde. "Don't mention it. What are you going to do to the boy?" "We follow his father's dying wish and protect him." "Good," replied the Soul Reaper as he opened the world tunneling gate. "I may come back someday to check on the kid," he said as he entered the gate and disappeared. The two shinobi were dumbfounded at what the swordsman did. But a more significant problem was present. The current Hokage and his wife are dead. Not only that, they left their child orphaned at a very early age. The village is still devastated by the Nine Tails attack and now, it just lost its leader. The people's morale will plunge when they find out what happened. "What are we going to do, Lord Hiruzen?" the Anbu captain asked. "I'm going to take over as Hokage again," the Sarutobi replied. "Are you sure about that, sir? Someone has to lead the village and I'd be damned to hell if I let someone selfish take over the position." "What about the boy?" "As I said, we will protect him, but his identity must be kept secret. Knowing who his parents are, many people will be more than happy to kill the boy just to get back at Minato and Kushina. We also need to keep this boy from Dansm. I'm sure if that warhawk ever gets a hold of Naruto, he'll turn this child into a living weapon. We can't allow that to happen. Am I clear?" "Understood." "Good. Gather the council. Tell the members that I am requesting an emergency meeting to address the recent events." "Yes, sir." The Anbu captain then flickered away. Hiruzen then looked at the family. His successor lay dead smiling with his arm over his newly born son. So did Kushina. Honestly, this was the darkest day of the village. Yet, he knows that Minato would want the town to move on and continue despite the tragedy it befell. When Kisuke returned to Soul Society, he couldn't help but think about what just happened. He'd been pulled from his laboratory into the middle of a forest. He fought a mountain-sized fox made of some new energy. Finally, he sealed the said fox into a newborn child while seeing the parents give their lives in the process. He's sure other things are going in his head besides those things, but one seems to keep bugging him the most. The power he felt inside the kid. He was concerned. No, he was afraid. What he created was a being that should never exist. The living Soul Reaper. The idea itself seemed impossible, but he was there. That boy was living proof. The spiritual energy the Mjyoku was able to convert and infuse was unparalleled, not to mention 3 sources of spiritual essences were used. There's also the fact that a portion of that fox's chakra was sealed into the poor kid. Oh, God. What have I just created? The boy has the spiritual energy of the fox, plus that ridiculous amount of chakra. This is going to give me one heck of a migraine. Upon realizing the gravity of the situation, he formulated various contingencies to ensure the kid wouldn't be put in harm's way. There's also the fact that what he just did was a first-class capital offense. If ever the head captain or Central 46 found out, he'd be lucky if he was only imprisoned into the darkest pits of hell. He was pretty sure that he'll be given a one-way ticket to Central Execution Hill if the higher-ups caught wind of the stunt he pulled. He'd be lying, however, if he didn't have any expectations from the boy. All that untapped potential, both chakra and spiritual energy, could bring about untold possibilities. A Shinobi Soul Reaper hybrid. If that boy ever gets the attention he needs, he might become more powerful than head captain Yamamoto. Hell, he might even become just as strong as Lord Ichib. The prospect of seeing that boy grow and unlock his latent abilities excites him so much that he wants to return and adopt him as his own. The only problem is how to return to that specific dimension. He still needs to pinpoint the spatial temporal signature to determine its exact coordinates. There's also the time dilation between Soul Society and the Minato's world. It's going to be a lot of work, but he'd be damned if the Soul King himself won't let him see the boy. Kisuke went to his quarters and lay down, his thoughts revolving around Naruto. It will take him quite a while, but to see that kid again soon will be worth it. Only time will tell. Chapter 2. The Outcasts. He was tired. He was desperate. But above all else, he was angry. The flurry of emotions was raging within Kisuke Urahara's thoughts as he kept on running from a contingent of Soul Reapers chasing after him. Anger was number 1 on that list. That anger, however, wasn't directed at anyone. No, it was directed at himself. Damn it. I was such a fool. I was naive. How could I not see this coming? How could have I let this happen? His mind couldn't help but think of the comrades that had suffered because of his carelessness. Recently, a series of disappearances have occurred in Soul Society. The victims of these unfortunate events involve both Soul Reapers and residents in the Rukin district. Kisuke got this information from a fellow captain, Shinji Hirako of the 5th Division. He surmised that some souls have begun to destabilize, so he began designing a new type of Gigai foe body to decrease these phenomena. It wasn't until things got out of hand that the 9th Division took it upon themselves to investigate the said events. Led by its captain Kensei Mugimura and his lieutenant Mashiro Kuna, the division never returned from their investigation. Head Captain Genryusai Shijakuni Yamamoto then sent out a search party to look for the missing Soul Reapers. The search party comprised of Shinji Hirako, 7th Division Captain Lovakawa and 3rd Division Captain RMJKRM Torbashi, along with Kiden Corps Lieutenant Hachijin Ushimda. Kisuke's lieutenant, Hiyori Surigaki, collected samples from the area in question as per the 12th Division Captain's request. She found Kensei and Mashiro converted into Soul Reaper hollow hybrids fighting the search party. Out of desperation and concern for his subordinate, Kisuke disobeyed a direct order from the head captain to stand down and decided to search for his lieutenant and the other victims. He was met by the Kiden Corps captain Tessai Tsukabishi and aided him in his search along the way. Tessai's reason? To locate his lieutenant Hachijin. What they found was horrifying. The search party and the investigation party and Hiyori and 8th Division Lieutenant Lisa Yadamaru, who was sent in secret by her captain, were under the process of conversion into hollows. The transformation was already in its intermediate stage. The cause of all this was Samsuke Aizen, Hirako's lieutenant, and his accomplice. 9th Division 6th Seat Kanam Tmsen and 5th Division 3rd Seat Jin Ichimaru. Aizen and his cohorts were about to finish them off if not for Kisuke and Tessai arriving in time and stopping them. A confrontation ensued, which resulted in Aizen and his men escaping, leaving Urahara to deal with the process he revealed to be holification. With the Kido Corps captain's help, they could transport Hiyori and the rest into his laboratory. Using them Jyoku, he attempted to restore them to normal. He did not get the result he wanted and was only able to stop the holification process. Their troubles, however, didn't end there. Somehow, Central 46 caught wind of the events and called Kisuke and Tessai in for questioning. In the end, they were blamed for the recent string of disappearances and holification of the captains and lieutenants. Kisuke suspected that it was Aizen who pinned the blame on them. Just after they were given their sentence, Captain Yoruchi Shimen of the 2nd Division was able to rescue them. Now they were on the run. All 3 captains have been stripped of their titles and marked as fugitives. They managed to find shelter in a secret chamber located under central execution grounds. They were tired from all the running, but they knew that they weren't out of the woods yet. Damn it, Kisuke. Yoruchi yelled as she launched a fist that collided with Kisuke's head. The blonde Soul Reaper looked at his dark-skinned former co-captain with a questioning look. What was that for? He rubbed his head to ease the pain. You know why? You left me out of this. Urahara knew what Yoruchi was talking about. He's known this woman for a long time since he grew up in her palace. Yes, Yoruchi Shimen is the heiress to the noble Shimen clan until today. He knew that she will always lend out a helping hand if ever he found himself in a tight spot, and he appreciates it. However, that kindness is the reason he never asked her for help in the first place. He knows that she will immediately help him regardless of the trouble she might find herself. That's what he didn't want. He didn't want to risk the Shimen heiress's safety just for him. Although fate had other plans, and now all 3 of them are considered criminals. You know I can't risk getting you involved in this, Kisuke said with concern. You're worried about me? Who do you think I am? I'm a captain, too, for goodness' sake. I could have handled myself, she spat at him furiously. The Shimen then pointed a finger to the now former Kiden Corps captain and said, besides, you got Tessai in this mess too. So, who are you to say that I should stay out of this? Tessai kind of forced me to bring him along, replied Urahara. He was worried about Hachijin like I was worried about Hiyori. The former 2nd Division captain looked at Tessai for confirmation. It's true, the muscular man said, I did force him to bring me along because I was concerned about my lieutenant. Okay, Yoruchi sighed in defeat. I believe the 2 of you. So, what now? That's a good question, Tessai remarked as he and Yoruchi looked at Kisuke for an answer. The obvious thing we should do is to get ourselves and our Holofeed comrades out of here, the blonde replied. And how exactly are we going to do that? Yoruchi asked in a sarcastic tone. I've designed a new type of gigai that conceals our spiritual pressure. We'll use those to hide from anyone chasing us. How many have you made? Tessai inquired. 11. Enough for the 3 of us and our friends. Not only that, I have a contact within the higher ranks of Sirte that we can ask for help. Who might this person be? Well, he began to answer sheepishly, the high priest. Tessai and Yoruchi's eyes widened like dinner plates at Kisuke's answer until the latter asked, are you kidding me? I was once permitted to enter the Soul Palace when I was younger and I've personally met the monk. He was a jolly fellow, you know. The 2 were astounded. This lazy pervert they're talking to managed to get the high priest of all people to be his inside informant. Seeing that pressing the issue will just delay their escape, the dark-skinned former captain just sighed. Okay. That's one problem handled, said Yoruchi. We still have to find a place to stay hidden. I already know a place we can hide in. That got the 2 curious. Where would this place be? Tessai asked. A little while ago, I was accidentally pulled from my laboratory into an unknown dimension. Time out, Yuruchi interrupted. You were pulled to a dimension. I find that hard to believe. I could say the same thing for myself, but it's true. I was summoned to that place by a man asking for help in defeating a creature threatening their village. Was this creature a hollow? Tessai asked. No, Kisuke replied. They called it a tailed beast. Tailed beast, muttered Yuruchi. Was it powerful? Definitely. I'd estimate it to be a Juch's Devasto Lord class in power. Heck, it forced me to use level 99 binding and destructive spells. If that fight had dragged on, I might have used my Bankai. Whatever it was, this creature earned both Tessai and Yuruchi's respect. It could force Kisuke, who was no pushover, by the way, to use level 99 Keto spells and nearly releasing his Bankai. Sensing that there was more to the story, they urged Kisuke to continue. Unlike hollows, tailed beasts are made of unique energy in that dimension called chakra. Interesting, Tessai mumbled. Indeed. It has similar properties to spiritual energy, yet at the same time, it's different. Different how? Yuruchi asked. It's like spiritual energy but mixed with another power. Anyways, these tailed beasts can't be killed since they are made of pure chakra. The physical body can be destroyed, but the chakra will merge and form a new vessel for the said chakra to reside in. So, how did you get rid of it? The man who summoned me was the village's leader, Minato Namikaze. I helped him seal that creature into his son. You what? You heard me. We sealed it into Minato's son. He and his wife used them Jyoku to purify the fox's soul and bonded it into the child while the chakra was sealed into the infant's body. Minato and his wife Kushina gave their lives to complete the process, embedding both their souls and chakra into the seal. The two soul reapers were trying to digest what they just heard. To say that this whole story was a load of bull would be an understatement. Then again, knowing Kisuke and his eccentric behavior, it wouldn't be out of character for him to get caught up in something like what he told. The main problem here was the fact that he inadvertently created a living soul reaper. If ever Central 46 or the Court Guard Squadron hear of this, they'll be all over the boy in a heartbeat. Is this the reason why you wanted to go to that specific dimension? Tessai inquired. Yes, Tessai, Kisuke replied. While in hiding, we need to protect that boy from anyone who'd use him as a weapon. No complaints here, Yuruchi spoke. Same, Tessai concurred. Well then, Kisuke clasped his hands together as his jolly mood returned. I've already prepared the Gigase outside the Rukin district. All that's left is to get our comrades to the target location, then we can leave. Alright, replied the former Keto Corps and 2nd Division captains. Let's go. It was October 10. In the village hidden in the leaves, this day marks the defeat of the dreaded nine-tailed demon fox at the 4th Hokage's hands. This day wasn't just a day of celebration, however. People mourned this day since many loyal shinobi and innocent civilians lost their lives during that fateful night. All those deaths built up a seed of hatred for the fox, which grew over 6 years. Suffice to say, they needed something or someone to blame for their pent-up anger. This was also the birthday of a particular orphan that lives in the village. Believing that this boy was the weakened form of the demon fox, the villagers organized annual fox hunts to supposedly kill the nine tails once and for all. Said boy is currently 6 years old. He had light tan skin, bright blonde hair, and bright cerulean eyes that could remind anyone of the ocean itself. However, right now, this boy was running for his life. He was the target of these annual fox hunts. They blame him for the deaths during the Nine Tails attack. To him, though, he didn't know why they were doing this. Ever since he was born, he never had a single happy memory. He was raised in an orphanage only to be kicked out when he turned 4. That didn't stop there. Once he was left to himself, he was at the mercy of villagers. Everywhere he looked, he received nothing but hateful glares filled with disgust. If that wasn't enough, some of the more violent people would beat him out of spite. The worst treatment he got was during the day of his birth. Mobs of angry villagers would chase him around town to cleanse the village of its plague. The only thing he could do was hide and hope that they never find him. This time, he was unlucky as he was located near Heroes Memorial and thus began a night-long chase that could spell doom for him if he were caught. But that's about to change. The World Tunneling Gate opened in the middle of Heroes Memorial. As a bright light shined from the opening, 3 figures emerged. One was a tall, muscular man wearing a black hakama under a blue cloak with decorative designs. His hair was braided back and he had a mustache that stretched to the side connecting with his sideburns. The look was completed with black-rimmed glasses. The next one to come out was a woman with purple hair, dark skin, and eyes with golden irises. She wore the same hakama as the other two. Only this time, it was sleeveless and instead, she had black forearm sleeves. Finally, the last one was a tall man with piercing silver eyes. He had pale messy blonde hair that had a few strands between his eyes. His attire was like the rest. A black hakama. Still, it was under a white haori with a kanji for 12 inside a diamond symbol embroidered at the back. On his waist was his walking cane, while slung behind his back was a knapsack. "So, this is the place," remarked Yuruchi as she looked around the area they landed on. "It's a smart idea getting us in our faux bodies before we got here." "Thank you," replied Kisuke. "It took me a while to determine the spatial temporal signature of this dimension and pinpoint its exact coordinates. It's a good thing I'm an expert in portals." SI wandered off a bit and found himself staring at a landmark. It was a giant stone memorial with a round base and a spire-like design on top. This landmark had names engraved on it. "We landed in a graveyard," Tessai said. "These must be the names of those who died during the attack," Kisuke commented. "It seems so," Yuruchi agreed. "Speaking of which, I think we should start looking for that boy you were talking about." "Sure," the pale blonde Soul Reaper replied as he spread out his spiritual energy, hoping to get feedback. Sure enough, he did. But it was gradually weakening. Something's wrong. Without warning, Kisuke ran in the direction of the fading spiritual energy. Seeing this, Tessai and Yuruchi followed suit. "What the hell, Kisuke?" Yuruchi yelled. "It's the kid," the former 12th Division captain replied. "He's in danger." This got both Tessai and Yuruchi concerned. "Do you know where he is?" asked the former. "I already recognized his spiritual energy. He's a few blocks from us." The two nodded and followed Kisuke. "Don't die on me, Naruto." The villagers have been beating their target for hours. They were able to corner him in an alleyway and began tormenting him. The kid already had a few stab wounds, cuts, contusions, and a fractured rib. One drunken madman emerged from among the angry mob and drew out a 10-inch knife, pointing it to the injured boy. Finally, the man with the knife thundered that it stirred the rest of the lynch mob into a joyous frenzy. "This the day we rid this village of this wretched demon." He plunged his knife down his target, but surprisingly, all he hit was dirt. He looked and saw that the kid was no longer there. The mob looked and saw their target was cradled in the hands of what looked like a blonde samurai. Beside the samurai was a tall, mustachioed muscular man and a dark-skinned woman, both of which were wearing black hakamas. "Why did you save that demon?" one of the men in the mob asked, pointing a sharp knife towards Kisuke, Yuruchi, and Tessai. All three Soul Reapers looked at the boy. "Demon?" they all thought. "The only demons I see are you people. Why would you attack a defenseless child?" Yuruchi was beyond mad. "That thing deserves to die for what it did 6 years ago." A random member signaled the rest to close in on the trio and the boy. Suddenly, a massive pressure covered the entire village. Hiruzen Sarutobi was busy dealing with the greatest enemy of any leader paperwork. His thoughts, however, could only focus on one specific thing. When he took up Hokage's mantle again, he promised his late successor that the boy would be taken care of, and honestly, the old man doesn't think he's doing a good job. He gave the boy his own apartment and a modest amount of money each month. He assigned trusted Anbu guards to protect the kid and he visits him every week. All of this though just doesn't seem to be enough. He tried everything he could, but there's only so much an old man can do. During his reinstatement, the civilian council slowly took some power away from him. This made it difficult to protect the young orphan, since those people want nothing more than the boy's death. They didn't get their wish, which was good, but they made sure that the kid would suffer. They ordered the village's establishments to kick the boy out when he so much as enters their stores. If not, they'd give him expired, rotten, or poisoned food or sell him their merchandise at ridiculously high prices. Then there are the annual fox hunts. Honestly, all these things could have been prevented if he didn't let the civilians get their way. Just as he was about to finish the last set of stacked papers, an intense pressure enveloped the whole village. Immediately, he fell to his knees, gasping for air. His Anbu guard inside his office suffered the same extreme power, causing some of them to lose consciousness instantly. The sensation was familiar. It was the same potent power that felt 6 years ago during the Night of the Nine Tails attack. Then it hit him. He's here. Kisuke Urahara was pissed. The former 12th Division captain held the abused 6-year-old in his arms. His deathly gaze falling upon the unruly mob while releasing a vast amount of spiritual pressure. He gestured to the former Shimin heiress to take the boy, to which she did. Then he pulled out the hidden wakizashi from his cane and inched forward. The mob can do nothing but feel the weight of this man's immense power. Their hatred turned to fear as their helplessness only sealed the impending doom they'll be facing. Kisuke raised his blade high, preparing to cut down every one of those mob imbeciles with one swing. He was capable of it. Before he could swing his sword, though, a firm grip was placed on his shoulder. He looked to see Tessai slowly shaking his head, subtly saying not to go with it. Kisuke did and relented. He turned his head back to the villagers to see them all passed out. With a sigh, he sheathed his blade and stopped releasing spiritual pressure. As soon as he hit his weapon, 10 shinobi appeared in front of them with weapons drawn. They all wore white masks depicting various animals and gray vests, forearm pads, and shin guards. Their leader, who had gray hair wearing a dog mask, raised his tanto in a reverse grip and said, "Whoever you are, let go of the boy." Iruchi, who immediately identified them as like the stealth corps of Soul Society, decided to taunt them. "Why? You're going to cut him up like the rest of the villagers." "We're the guards assigned to protect him," the lead ninja replied. Ashimin gave a light smirk at the reply. "Really? Some guards all of you are for letting this poor child get beat half to death," she said, then disappeared. In a split second, Dog found the edge of his tanto aimed at his throat. It was held by the very same woman who was just in front of him that was cradling the unconscious child, now behind him holding his weapon. Fast. Dog was surprised at the speed of the woman. He never saw any movement. What just happened? This was the collective thought of the other operatives. "You're ninjas, aren't you?" Yuruchi asked the dog mask shinobi, which earned her a nod. "Heh. All of you are 100 years too early if you think you have what it takes to beat me. Anbu, stand down." Everyone turned to who gave the command and found the third Hokage in his battle garb. All the operatives did as they're told and hid their weapons. These individuals far outclass us in terms of skill and raw power, I included. So, I suggest we not make a scene here and get ourselves in trouble. All Anbu operatives nodded. Yuruchi handed the tanto she was holding back to Dog and vanished only to reappear beside Kisuke, who was carrying the child. The Anbu leader then signaled his entire crew to disperse. "I apologize for the trouble these villagers and my men caused you," the old village leader said to the Soul Reaper trio. "Come with me to my office. I'm sure you have a question or two about the boy's current state." Si and Yuruchi looked to Kisuke for confirmation, to which he agreed, and they proceeded to Hokage Tower. Kisuke, Yuruchi, Tesai, and Hiruzen all made it to the Hokage's office. Kisuke, who was carrying Naruto, placed the boy on a nearby couch to let him rest. The old leader then sat down on his chair behind his office desk, pulled out a smoking pipe, and lighting it. He looked up to the three strangers and felt a shiver run down his spine. Their eyes, even that of Tesai, which was hidden behind glasses, all bore cold and deathly expressions. He's seen those eyes before. These were the eyes of trained warriors that won't have second thoughts about killing anyone. However, the frightening part of this was that he was utterly powerless if they ever decided to cut him down. "How long has it been, old man?" the former 12th Division captain said, breaking the silence. 6 years, Hiruzen replied. "I never did get to thank you for helping out with the fox." "That's beside the point," the blonde replied with a wave of anger in his voice. "I have a question." "What is it?" "Why are the villagers treating Naruto like some sort of plague?" The aged Sarutobi gave out a sigh and gestured the three to take a seat. He then explained to them the current condition of the village and Naruto's unfortunate predicament. Hearing his explanation didn't lessen the disappointment and frustration of the three Soul Reapers, especially Kisuke. Though his decisions were made with good intentions, the results weren't as expected. After his explanation ended, a long moment of silence followed that made the atmosphere even more suffocating than it already is. That's when Yuruchi spoke. "Does he know?" "No, he doesn't. I don't think he's ready to learn that yet. That, however, won't stop others from disclosing such information to Naruto. For this reason, I passed a law that will prevent anyone from speaking about this. The punishment for such transgression is death." Si joined the conversation by saying, "That doesn't explain why the villagers are trying to kill him. If anything, they'd treat this child right and make him a loyal shinobi of this village." "True," Hiruzen replied, "however, the people are so blinded by their anger of the fox that they'd rather kill Naruto than try to consider the problem rationally. No one seems willing to listen to reason. To do that, it's an uphill task." "You're telling me that instead of honoring the wish of Minato, they'd rather kill his son?" Kisuke had had enough of the absurdity in Naruto's tragic life. He was fuming, saying the least. He usually is a jolly and laid-back individual, but seeing this kind of mistreatment to anyone, especially to an innocent child, disgusts him. "Do you know what kind of sacrifice Minato and Kushina made to save this village? They gave their souls, literally, just so those imbeciles can have a life. Hell, when Minato summoned me into this world to help, I saw the sadness in their eyes when they won't get to see their son." Hiruzen stared at Kisuke wide-eyed at the last sentence he spoke. "Summoned you?" "Yes," the blonde replied. "Minato summoned to deal with the fox. It was a tough fight, but I managed to defeat it." Hearing this, Hiruzen then recalled the jutsu his successor performed. It was the Reaper Death Seal. This jutsu calls upon the dreaded Soul Reaper to help in the sealing at the caster's cost and the opponent's souls devoured by the Death God. Realization finally struck the aged Hokage as to what these three people were. "Why you're Soul Reapers?" Hiruzen stammered as his face began to pale when he realized these three individuals are Deathbringers. "Yes, we are," replied Kisuke in a monotone voice. "Don't worry, old man," said Yuruchi to reassure the elder Hokage. We won't be devouring your soul, drag you to hell, or whatever it is you think we soul reapers do. This did calm Sarutobi down, but he was still apprehensive about being near these beings. But the shaman continued, something still needs to be done about that kid situation. He deserves better than what he's getting. You are right, Hiruzen agreed, but there's only so much I can do. Care to explain? Tessai inquired. Puffing out a plume of smoke from his pipe, the Hokage said, ever since Minato died, certain parties took advantage of his untimely passing. He may have been a hero to the masses, he still had enemies both within and out of the village. Who might these people be? First is the civilian council. These people despised Minato for limiting their hold on the village. Once he died, they immediately grabbed what power they could in this village's political structure, thus limiting the options I am provided with. They are the ones who have been causing most of Naruto's mistreatments. When I called a meeting soon after I got reinstated as Hokage, the first thing they demanded was for the boy's execution. That left all three Soul Reapers wide-eyed as Hiruzen continued. I was, fortunately, able to deny that request. This is also one of the reasons why I passed the law I mentioned earlier. Then there's Danzo Shimura. He runs a paramilitary group known as the Foundation. Due to Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki, Danzo and his associates have attempted several times to capture the boy and turn him into a mindless weapon. Suffice to say, none of the three liked what they were hearing. If anything, the three were disappointed at the old man for letting Naruto's life end up like this under his watch. For Kisuke, however, it felt like a mountain of guilt was placed on his shoulders. This was the worst thing that could happen to someone as young as Naruto. The boy lost his parents just after being born. He was mistreated by the villagers thinking he was some monster while being hunted by a warmonger who wants to use him as a weapon. The funny thing here was he could have prevented all of this. He promised before that he'd check on the boy but failed to do so. It reminded him of what happened to his Lieutenant Hiyori when he sent her into that mission. He sent her to her doom. The same can be said to him not visiting Naruto, which made him angry at himself even more. But now, he was here. He has a chance to redeem himself. The former 12th Division captain's cold gaze relaxed as he asked Hiruzen, do you remember what I said when I left? You said you were going to check on Naruto once in a while. And sadly, I never did that, the blonde said dejectedly. I'm partly to blame for what Naruto's been going through since I never paid him even a single visit. This was a first for both Tessai and Yuruchi to see their friend like this. The toll of seeing Hiyori Holofeed was terrible enough, but seeing Naruto suffer took it too far. His eyes depicted a sad look, one filled with regret. Then, as if a spark was lit, his eyes lost the unfortunate image it had earlier now replaced by one of determination. But we're here now. The three of us can watch over the kid. A smile crept upon the face of the old village leader. Thank you, Lord Kisuke, Hiruzen said, joyful at the prospect of people taking care of the boy he considered as a grandson. There are conditions, though. The Hokage expected this, but he was more than willing to do anything if it meant ensuring Naruto's safety. What are your terms? First off, the three of us need to learn everything about your world. Customs, traditions, political structure, history, and economic scheme. It's best if we start with your village. That seems reasonable. What else? Next is we need a place to stay. I was thinking of building a shop to gain some income. At least, that's what I'm planning. I still don't know about these two, the blonde said while pointing at Yuruchi and Tessai. That too, I can grant you. Finally, there's the matter concerning Naruto. I want him trained to be a shinobi. Can you do that? I can. I was planning on having Naruto enrolled in the academy since he's already eligible. The course lasts 6 years. The first 2 focusing on basic skills such as reading and writing, while the remainder focuses on shinobi basics. That's good to know. Oh, before I forget, Kisuke remarked as he took his bag and pulled out a katana. It was a simple weapon with a hilt covered in shark skin under braided leather wrappings. It had a concave tsuba that separated a modest-looking blade from the handle and a sheath coated with black lacquer. Curious, the third Hokage asked, what is this? That is a Zanpakuto. The weapon of a Soul Reaper. It looks like a fairly common katana than a powerful weapon, commented the old man. It's still an Asauchi or a blank slate. Once Naruto is old enough or when you think he's ready, give it to him. The old man nodded. When you do, have him trained in using it. Eventually, his powers will manifest and give his Zanpakuto a more personalized design. Just as the trio decided to leave, the adults heard the boy groan as he stretched his arms out and gradually sat up. He rubbed his eyes and slowly opened them, revealing that he is no longer in the alleyway and the mob had disappeared. He recognized it as the Hokage's office. Naruto looked around and saw the Hokage and immediately felt security, knowing he was with someone who cared for him. He examined the other way and saw 3 people he didn't recognize. They all looked like, to him anyway, fancy samurais, given the clothes they wore. He became slightly worried as one of these samurais approached. Seeing the fear in the young boy's eyes, Kisuke gave him a gentle smile, reflecting his lax demeanor's return. The action had the desired effect as it eased the younger blonde. He got down to one knee as he stared directly at Naruto, his piercing silver eyes meeting innocent azure orbs. "Hello Naruto," Kisuke began, "I hope you're alright now. We were anxious about you." This got Naruto curious. Why would this stranger, who he'd never seen before, worry about him? He looked to Hiruzen, looking for some form of an answer to his doubt. Seeing Naruto's confusion, Hiruzen knew he needed to tell the boy what happened. "Hello Naruto. It's a good thing that you're awake now. Do you know what happened to you earlier?" The boy thought for a moment. Memories began to return to his head as he recalled being hunted down and tortured to near death. "I do," he answered with fear and apprehension evident in his voice. "Don't worry, young man," said Tessai as he tried to calm the kid down. "No one in this room will hurt you." "It's true," Hiruzen interjected. "These people saved you from the mob that tried to hurt you." Naruto's eyes widened as it was rare for people to honestly care for him. Sure, he had the old man as well as Tucci and Aim, but no one in the village would even bat an eye if something ever happened to him. Here though, were strangers he'd never seen before who knew nothing about him, and yet, they rescued him from the unruly villagers that tried to kill him. His eyes began to tear up and he launched himself onto the kneeling blonde. The loud oof came from Kisuke as he felt the kid's weight impacted his body. Sobs can be heard from his shoulder where the boy buried his head, the tiny arms wrapping around his neck as he returned the gesture by patting the boy's head. "It's okay. You're safe now," assured the blonde as the Soul Reaper pulled himself away from the hug to look at the boy once more. "Thank you, mister," Naruto said, still teary-eyed. "No need to thank us, kid. We couldn't just let a child almost get killed. Anyways, my name is Kisuke Urahara," he introduced himself, then pointed to his fellow Soul Reapers. "These two are my friends. The tall guy with the glasses and the funky mustache is Tessai Tsukubishi, while the lady is Uruchi Shimen." "Hello Tessai, Uruchi. Thank you for saving me." "It's nothing, Naruto," the former female captain said. "Like what Kisuke said, we can't just let a child get beat up." "Listen, Naruto," the blonde Soul Reaper caught the boy's attention. "In about a month, you'll be enrolled in the Shinobi Academy." Naruto's eyes glimmered with excitement. That smile didn't go unnoticed by Kisuke as he too gave a smile. "I want you to become an amazing ninja, okay?" This earned him a nod. "Don't worry about the villagers hurting you because the three of us will be watching you." Naruto nodded once again. He still couldn't understand why these people are helping him, let alone protecting him, but he is grateful all the same. Kisuke stood up and looked to the old leader and back to the boy. Everything will get better starting today, he thought to himself. What happened to him with Aizen will never be repeated. He swore to that. That was the first, last, and only time he will be caught off guard. From this point forward, he will be ready. He will plan everything up to the most sufficient detail and have contingencies in place just in case. No more was he the Kisuke Urahara that was ill-prepared and naive. Now he will be deceptive and cunning towards his enemies. For the boy he saved today and to whatever comes in the way, nothing, absolutely nothing will surprise him anymore. Chapter 3. 6 years later. Morning has come. The sun, rising from its slumber, began to illuminate the village hidden in the leaves. Its bright rays were striking the different homes. The windows of one apartment let the sun's light penetrate its curtains. The beams were dancing wildly as it gradually brightened the once dim-lit room. Its light didn't go unnoticed by its occupant. The boy felt it in his eyes, signaling him that he needs to wake up. He did just that. He slowly opened his eyes and rubbed them in hopes of making the fuzziness in his vision disappear as he got up to prepare for a day at the academy. Things have changed for Naruto since he met Kisuke and his friends. For one, he now has 3 people whom he could call a surrogate family. These were the very same people that saved him 6 years ago from the lynch mob. They were an odd bunch. Kisuke Urahara was the weirdest of the 3. He was eccentric, evidenced by the fact he named his convenience store Urahara Shop. He gets quite passionate about the things he gets interested in, to the point that he does things flamboyantly and over the top. Still, he is the most intelligent among them, and he devoted his time to teaching Naruto how to read and write. Even though the boy had a 5-year-old's attention span, he enjoyed the former captain's company. So much so that he would visit the store to spend time with him. Uruchi Shihoin, however, liked to tease the blonde Jinchuriki. She was a bit of a pervert, though not as much as Kisuke. What irritated Naruto the most was that the former Shihoin heiress could transform into a black cat. She preferred to stay in this form since it makes for a perfect disguise. Whenever the blonde boy visited the store, however, she would revert to her human state. The problem here is she always ends up naked. Naruto can't remember how many times he saw Uruchi in the nude, but he would instantly bolt out of the store every time he does. Tessai Tsukubishi was a stern disciplinarian. Whenever Kisuke tutored Naruto and lost interest, Tessai kept him in line and made him listen attentively. The mustachioed man was usually busy managing the store's products, lifting boxes, and entertaining customers. He did his best to make Naruto less rowdy, but there's so much one can do to tame an Uzumaki. Nevertheless, he enjoyed the blonde's visits since the kid managed to liven up the mood wherever he visited. Naruto yawned as another boring lecture droned on for another hour. He wanted to skip this class and immediately head to the shop, with Tessai being the only one that could stop him. He hated these sessions. He learned more in the month before he enrolled in the academy when Kisuke was teaching him, and that's saying something. That's just how uninterested he is. But he has no choice this time. Why? It was the graduation exams, and to be honest with himself, he was nervous. Ever since he entered the academy, he struggled academically. It wasn't his fault why he was failing. The teachers themselves made it their mission to ensure he won't become a shinobi for fear of the demon gaining power. The only member of the academy's teaching staff that genuinely did his best for him was Iruka Yamino. The scarred Chunin understood Naruto's predicament and did what he could to help him, even if just a little. Yet no matter what he did, people still hold that misguided idea that Naruto was the Nine Tails incarnate. But Naruto wasn't a quitter. He did everything he could to pass. The first 2 years would have been difficult if not for Kisuke's teachings. All those private lessons the perverted man conducted helped the boy in his studies. The 4 years of shinobi training was a lot tougher. Compared to the rest of the male students, he was arguably the shortest. This puts him at a disadvantage when it comes to sparring matches. Add to the fact he was always paired with the best taijutsu. Because of this, he asked Tessai for tips in physical training to make up for his deficiency in height, which the muscled man happily offered his assistance. Naruto also has a problem with controlling his chakra. This is primarily due to his massive reserves. It is a known fact that having low chakra reserves means having better control, while having high chakra capacity will cause difficulty. Compared to other students his age, he had the chakra reserves of an elite Chunin or higher, making it difficult for him to perform even the most basic jutsus. And for the graduation exams, he needed to perform 3 specific jutsus. The substitution jutsu, transformation jutsu, and finally a basic clone jutsu. He can do the first 2. But the second? It was his most hated jutsu. Due to his horrible chakra control, any clone he makes turns out sickly and misshapen. If there was one requirement that he most definitely has difficulty in, that would be making clones. One by one, his classmates are being called into the front and asked to perform that 3 jutsus. All he could do was wait for his name to be called. His hands were fidgeting at the idea of him not being able to pass. He needed to. He owed it to the 3 who saved his life years ago. To fail them would mean he broke a promise. He never breaks his promises. I'll do everything I can to pass this exam and graduate. It's the least I could for all the help Kisuke, Yuruchi, and Tessai did for me. Nah, Naruto. A gentle voice snapped him out of his fear-induced daze, and he turned to his right. The person he found was probably the only girl in class that he could remotely call a friend. It was Hinata Hyuga. Compared to the other girls, she was different. She doesn't fawn over Sasuke Uchiha, who was Rookie of the Year, by the way, like some rabid fangirl. No, she preferred to spend time with Naruto. They usually engage in small talk, but now and then, she'd faint and fall over like a tree stump. The Jinchuriki thought the girl was weird because of her behavior, but who was he to refuse an offer of friendship? Hinata noticed that Naruto was tense. It was rare for the blonde boy to act this way. She knew something wasn't right. What's wrong, and Naruto? Oh. Hi Hinata, he replied as he gave a foxy grin. It's nothing for you to worry about. The Hyuga knew he was lying, and she had a pretty good idea of what's bothering him. Is it about the exam? Naruto's grin dropped rather quickly once Hinata guessed right. Sometimes he wondered if her Byakugan let her see past people, or if it just came naturally to her. How do you know? He asked with a somber tone. Well, why you usually don't act 50 like this, and it's the D-day of the exams. Tell me, what or why you worried about? Haha, it's that obvious, huh? The girl nodded. Well, we need to perform 3 jutsus, right? Why yeah, Hinata replied in a stutter. To pass the exam, we need to do the substitution, transformation, and finally, a clone jutsu. That's right, Hinata. I can do the first 2, but the making clones. I can't do it. What do you mean? Whenever I try the clone jutsu, it always turns out bad. His answer confirmed her suspicions. Naruto was afraid that he might not graduate because of his inability to properly make clones. Hinata placed her left hand on his right hand and gave it a gentle squeeze to reassure him. It's okay, Naruto. I know you can do it. I believe in you. Upon hearing this, whatever apprehensions Naruto had gone up and disappeared. He smiled at her with a smile only reserved for those people he considers precious, and right now, Hinata just became one of those special people. Thanks Hinata. You don't know how that meant so much to me. This caused the girl to blush heavily. Half of the blood in her body quickly traveled to her face, turning it crimson. "Why you're welcome," she barely said that. Hinata Hikta. Hinata's name was called, her attention diverting to their test conductor Iruka Yamino. She quickly moved to the front of the class and waited for their teacher's instructions. "Okay, Hinata," the Chunin instructor began. "You know the drill. Just perform the substitution, transformation, and clone sus. If you can do those successfully, you pass." "Yes, sensei." Hinata formed the hand sign for transformation jutsu and yelled, "Transform." A plume of smoke covered her for a moment. Once that disappeared, in her place was now a replica of their other teacher conducting the exam, Mizuki. The transformation was impressive for someone of her age. The only difference was that her change didn't have pockets on her teacher's flak jacket. "Impressive," Hinata Iruka commented. "Aside from the missing pockets on the vest, your transformation into Mizuki-sensei was perfect. Next, perform the substitution jutsu while I throw this pebble at you. Use the log over here to switch with," he said, pointing to a stump near the window. Hinata gave him a nod. She moved her hands together and formed the hand signs for the substitution. Iruka threw a pebble at her, and once it struck, she was instantly covered in smoke. After the smoke disappeared, there was now a log where she stood. She successfully performed the jutsu and found herself near the windows where the stump used to be. "Well done, Hinata. Now you just need to make a few clones, then you'll be done." "Okay." This time, she made 2 perfect clones. Seeing her 2 senseis content with her performance, she dispelled them. Once that was done, Iruka handed her a forehead protector. Her eyes widened as she reached out and grabbed the object while looking at her teachers joyfully. With the item in hand, she rushed back to her seat beside Naruto. "Congratulations, Hinata," the whiskered blonde said while giving her his trademark foxy grin. "You're amazing." She blushed at that. Thank you, and Naruto. It took a few more minutes before Naruto would be called. He spent most of that pondering whether he would be able to create clones. He practiced hard before today. He did everything he could to make at least 1 perfect clone, but no matter how hard Naruto tried, he just can't do it right. Naruto Uzumaki. His name was called. This was it. He stood up from his seat not before the Hinata wished him luck and made his way to the front. He could hear the whispers of his classmates about how he was going to fail the test. He's going to fail. Like the dead last can do basic sus. I can't wait to see him mess up. He was used to these words, and he didn't care. He was determined to become a shinobi by the end of the day. "Okay, Naruto," Mizuki said while looking at a clipboard in his hand. "Perform the substitution jutsu." "Sure thing, sensei." The blue-haired Chunin threw a pebble at Naruto only for the boy to burst into a puff of smoke. Once it cleared, a tree stump stood in his place. Both instructors turned to where the stump used to be, and sure enough, they saw Naruto with a wide grin. "Excellent, Naruto," said Iruka, praising the blonde at a successful substitution. Mizuki then checked one of the criteria written on the clipboard. "Now, do the transformation jutsu." The whiskered Jinchuriki threw a wide grin at his teachers and shouted, "Transform." Like before, he was instantly covered in a large plume of smoke, and once it dissipated, out came Naruto in the form of the 4th Hokage. This earned a lot of surprised faces from the entire class. Even his teachers were wide-eyed at how accurate his transformation is. Hinata, too, was amazed, but that wasn't what her thoughts were focused on. She saw an uncanny resemblance between her seatmate and the 4th Hokage. They look so similar. If anything, Lord 4th would look like Naruto if he was younger. She wasn't the only one who had similar thoughts. On the other side of the classroom, Shikamaru Nara also pondered Naruto's possibility of being related to the late Hokage. "I wonder." "That was amazing, Naruto," Iruka exclaimed as he ruffled the boy's hair. As for the blonde, he immensely enjoyed the sensation. The other instructor continued to check another criterion on his clipboard. "Finally, make a few clones, and you'll be finished." Naruto's inner celebration halted once he heard the word clones. This was the one requirement he may not fulfill, given that he sucked at making clones. He looked at Iruka like a lost puppy, pleading to hide him from whatever embarrassment he might get. "What's the matter, Naruto?" the scarred Chunin asked, curious as to why the boy's energy disappeared suddenly as he dropped his head down. He didn't answer. "Come on, Naruto," Iruka placed a hand on the blonde's shoulder. "You don't need to feel embarrassed. You can tell me anything." Naruto's unease somewhat lessened. He looked up to the man and said, "Iruka-sensei, it's difficult for me to do the clone jutsu. Can I just do something else?" Iruka sighed. "I'm sorry, Naruto. You need to do the clone jutsu to graduate. If you don't, I'm afraid I have to fail you." Seeing Naruto like this saddens Iruka. He sees the same sadness he experienced when he was growing up. He, too, was an orphan. He lost his parents when the Nine Tails attacked the village 12 years ago. After that, he was so lost that he craved attention, regardless of what form it may come. He can see this in Naruto. He knows that the boy needs praise because what Naruto is going through right now reflects his life before. It's a shame that he can't do anything about the test. He may be compassionate towards the boy, but there were still rules he needed to follow. Suddenly, the door to the room slowly opened. The guests who entered left the students shocked, to say the least. Two people made their way into the room, the first person everyone recognized as the third Hokage. The second one, however, was an unfamiliar face. The man was tall, taller than both Mizuki and Iruka. He wore a green hakama under a dark green haori with white diamond patterns on the lower end. Completing his get-ups were wooden clog sandals and a bucket hat with green and white stripes, while carrying a wooden cane. Naruto's eyes became wide as saucers as soon as he saw the other man that entered along with Lord Third. Mr. Kisuke. Gramps. Hey there, Naruto. Kisuke greeted the blonde jovially while waving a fan he pulled from under his cloak. Hello, Naruto, greeted the Hokage. Mizuki and Iruka bowed to recognize the presence of their village leader. Iruka signaled the class to the same. Good morning, Lord Third, both Chunin said. Hello Iruka. Mizuki, Hiruzen replied to the two. What brings you here, Lord Third? Iruka inquired, curious as to the leader's visit. Ah, yes. I almost forgot, the elderly man remembered and pointed to the one who came with him. This man here is Kisuke Urahara. He is a researcher and inventor, and as for our visit, he wants to test out an invention of his. What may this invention be? I'm not sure about the details, but he calls it a chakra capacity quantifier. I leave Mr. Urahara to explain how it works. Kisuke made his way in front of the class and greeted the students. He then pulled out a small handheld device and placed it on the teacher's table. The device looked like a black camera since it had a lens box with a single button. The hat-wearing guest pushed the single button on the device and two projections suddenly appeared. One was a wide holographic screen that was 3 feet long and 2 feet wide, while the other projection produced a keypad with letters and numbers. Kisuke turned the cover of the lens, exposing it. A collective amazing was heard from the students. Okay, kids. The older blonde began, my name is Kisuke Urahara. What I have here is my latest invention. I call it the chakra capacity quantifier. Kisuke exclaimed like a passionate salesperson, much to the annoyance of a younger blonde. What does it do, Mr. Urahara? A random student asked. I'm glad you asked. Just as the name implies, this device scans your body and determines the capacity your chakra reserves can hold. All you have to do is stand in front of the lens, and the screen will show how much chakra you hold in numeric values. Iruka felt a bit apprehensive about this. He knew where this was going. If this Kisuke person wants to test his invention on his students, he'll let himself be the test subject first to make sure it won't do anything terrible to the class. Mr. Urahara? Iruka called the green-clad blonde. Yes. Will you need a volunteer to test your invention? If so, then let me. Sure thing. Kisuke jubilantly said. The green-wearing man guided the volunteer Chunin in front of his invention's lens. He quickly scurried to the keypad and pressed random letters. After that, a flash of light appeared before Iruka as it guided itself from the instructor's head down to his feet. On the screen projection, specific details about the volunteer ninja registered. One specific entry that says took the interest of everyone in the room. It says. Chakra capacity. 1367. Well, Kisuke exclaimed. As you can see here, your sensei was scanned and registered a chakra capacity of 1367. I'd classify this as low to mid Chunin level. That's an awe-inspiring invention, Mr. Urahara, the Hokage remarked. That device will be valuable in assessing our ninja and as well as our students here in the academy. Speaking of which, the old man turned to the class and waved a hand. Who wants to try out and see their chakra capacity? One by one, the students all proceeded to the front in a bid to find out how much chakra they possess. The two instructors ensured that the tests would be orderly, so they told them to fall in line and not make noise. The results of each student got when they were scanned was expected for their age. They were just kids, so it was no surprise that the majority registered chakra capacities around 300 to 500 or more. The clan heirs from the village's clans got some of the higher points ranging from 500 to 600. This time it was Sasuke Uchiha's turn to be scanned on the device. Considered to be the last Uchiha, Sasuke's entire clan was decimated by his older brother, Itachi. This left him all alone and resentful. The only thing in his mind was revenge and the restoration of his clan. He'll do anything to return the Uchiha clan to its former glory. And right now, learning about his chakra capacity will give him a good insight into how much training he'll need. Chakra capacity. 731. The screen flashed, revealing Sasuke's score to be the highest of the students. The result immediately earned him praises from his fangirls as they swarmed him like a pack of wolves. He went back to his seat with a blank look on his face. After the students, the remaining adults got in front of the scanner. They, too, were curious as to their chakra capacity. Chakra capacity. 1438. Chakra capacity. 4501. The screen revealed the chakra reserves for Mizuki and the third Hokage. It was pretty much expected that a Hokage would have high levels of chakra. Thinking that everyone was tested, Iruka and Mizuki gestured to Kisuke to keep the device. The blonde smirked as he pulled out his fan open and covered his mouth and said, "There's still one student we haven't tested yet." He turned to his right and found his fellow blonde staring at him before saying, "Right, Naruto." Everyone looked at Naruto questioningly while trying to recall if the whiskered boy had been scanned. Their thoughts, however, were interrupted by a random student. "Why should we bother?" the student said in a mocking tone. "I'm sure the dope would have the lowest chakra here." "We'll soon find out," Kisuke replied as his smirk gradually turned into a grin. "Come here, Naruto." The boy did as he was told and moved in front of the lens. The older blonde activated the device and a flash of light beamed at Naruto, slowly moving from his head to his feet. The screen flashed numbers that made everyone in the room, save for Kisuke and Hiruzen, go wide-eyed at the result. Chakra capacity. 5784. Naruto had the highest score in the entire class and quite possibly the whole school, teaching staff included. This did not sit well for most of the students. How the hell did the class clown ever get that much chakra? Mean looks and glares were immediately directed towards Naruto after his chakra reserves were flashed on the screen. "That machine must be broken." Another angry student cried out defiantly. "There's no way that idiot has that much chakra." The entire class erupted into a frenzy after that. Everyone just couldn't believe that the class dunce had the highest chakra reserves compared to them. This is more evident within the fangirls. They kept on screaming curses at Naruto, who scored so high than their precious Sasuke. The raven-haired Uchiha was rather surprised by this revelation. He wondered how the dunce could have so high of a chakra capacity. He put it off for now, deciding that the thing is worth investigating later. Iruka, who had enough of this, performed a jutsu and made his head 4 times as large as it used to be. "Keep quiet, all of you," he yelled, causing the noise to stop almost immediately. "That is one effective jutsu. I might ask this ninja to teach me that one day, not that I'd learn it though." Kisuke thought to himself as closed his fan and hid it in his Haori while addressing the class's concern. "Although this is a prototype," he said as he turned off his invention, "the results it displayed are accurate. 98% accurate to be precise." "It's not possible," said one of the class bullies, still refusing to accept Naruto's exceptional test result. "How could someone like him have so much chakra?" "Quite. That is not how we treat your classmate," the old Hokage reminded. "Just because Naruto has the highest chakra count doesn't mean you should be threatened and antagonize him. You must remember that every one of us has gifts that make us special. The Uchihas have their Sharingan. The same goes for the Hyuga's Byakugan, the Aburum's parasitic insects, the Yamanaka's mind possession, and many more. Naruto may be the last in your class, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have anything that makes him special," Hiruzen said, referring to the boy's massive chakra. "Which reminds me," the old man turned towards Iruka and Mizuki. "Since Naruto has massive amounts of chakra, it will be difficult for him to create any normal clones. Am I right, Iruka?" "Mizuki?" Iruka thought about it and couldn't help but agree. With Naruto's enormous chakra, it'd be impossible for him to do some of the simpler jutsus. "Yes, Lord Hokage." "Be that as it may," Mizuki interrupted, "he still needs to perform a clone jutsu to graduate." "Correct, Mizuki," Hiruzen concurred. "That is why instead of the regular clone jutsu, Naruto will be taught the shadow clone jutsu, which he will then perform for the graduation examinations." "But sir," Mizuki exclaimed. "The shadow clone is a forbidden jutsu. It'd be dangerous for any genin to perform that." "The Hokage may have a point," Iruka interjected. "Naruto may be the only one in this class that can do the shadow clone jutsu, given his massive chakra. There's still the problem of whether or not he can learn it in time." "I wouldn't doubt him if I were you," said Kisuke as he approached the 3 shinobi. "I've been Naruto's tutor for quite some time and I can assure you that he'll be able to learn the shadow clone jutsu. Give him 10 minutes." The aged Sarutobi produced a small scroll from his cloak and handed it to Naruto. "This scroll contains the instructions to do the jutsu. You're given 10 minutes to learn it and after that, you'll perform it as your final test before you graduate." Naruto nodded as he reached out and took the scroll from the Hokage. He opened it and scanned its contents intently. This was one unusual sight to the 2 teachers and the Hokage. They always knew Naruto to get bored in a matter of seconds. The picture of him being studious, even just this once, just seemed unreal, to put it bluntly. This didn't escape the rest of the class, either. There was one that didn't seem surprised by this, and that was Kisuke Urahara. He knew the boy had potential locked away. It just needed to be brought out by the right people. That's why during their studies, he reminded Naruto that if the circumstance calls for it, he needed to take things seriously. This situation is one good example, and the Soul Reaper's guidance is what's keeping Naruto focused on this instance. After 10 minutes, the young blonde rolled the scroll closed and returned it to Lord Third. Naruto then moved his hands and formed a plus sign. He closed his eyes and concentrated his chakra while thinking back to the scroll contents he read. He then shouted, "Shadow Clone Jutsu." A large plume of smoke engulfed the boy as his chakra flared. When the smoke dispersed, 14 clones stood beside the original Naruto. He looked around and saw not sickly and malnourished-looking clones. No, he saw perfect replicas of himself. "I did it," he thought to himself, still amazed that he was able to pull off a clone jutsu. "I did it. I actually did it," he yelled in excitement. "Big deal," another student remarked, unimpressed. "Every one of us can do a clone jutsu. It's not like you're anything special." On the contrary, the Hokage interrupted. "Only Naruto can do the shadow clone jutsu." "So what? They're just clones like the ones we made." "They are clones, true, but there are key differences that make shadow clones superior compared to the regular clones you make." "If I may ask," Shino Aburam asked from the far right of the class, "what are these differences, Lord Hokage?" "Thank you for asking, Shino. Unlike the regular clone jutsu, which is just an illusion, shadow clones are solid tangible clones that can think independently from the caster. Not only that, they have their own chakra systems, giving them the ability to do jutsus. If that jutsu is that good, why doesn't the academy teach it?" Sakura Haruno inquired. This time, it was Iruka who explained. "That's because you need to have high chakra reserves to safely perform this jutsu." "I still don't understand." This time, it was Kiba and Yuzuka who raised a question. "Why do we need to have high chakra reserves to do this clone jutsu?" "What he means," Shikamaru Nara explained after waking up from a short nap, "is that if any of us do this particular clone jutsu, we will experience critical levels of chakra exhaustion. That's the reason why Naruto is the only one who can make shadow clones. He has more than enough chakra to create as many shadow clones as he wants without the usual risks that come to people like us." "That's correct, Shikamaru," Iruka agreed. Now, Naruto wasn't oblivious to the discussion he was hearing, far from it. He was listening attentively, which was once in a lifetime, by the way. He couldn't help but feel proud of himself for doing a clone jutsu. Not just any jutsu, he did the shadow clone jutsu, which was considered a forbidden jutsu. A forbidden jutsu, mind you. Not only that, both Iruka and the old man said that he's the only one in the entire school who can do it. A feeling of pride swelled within his chest, wanting to burst. Finally, he has something he's good at. Now, he was being appreciated. The blonde looked at a smiling Iruka who had something in his hand. That hand slowly made its way in front of the boy, revealing the object. Naruto's eyes widened at what was given to him. A forehead protector. "Congratulations, Naruto," Iruka said as a gentle smile crept on his face. "You're now a shinobi." Naruto's hand started shaking. It wasn't sadness that made him tremble. No, it was the feeling of joy. He just accomplished one of his goals. He fulfilled the promise he made 6 years ago. "I want you to become an amazing ninja, okay?" He recalled those exact words as he looked to Kisuke. The older blonde simply tilted his bucket hat upward, revealing his silver eyes, laced with pride. He gave Naruto a sly grin and nodded, acknowledging the young man's accomplishment. Naruto then looked to the seat next to his. There he saw the girl who believed in him. For what it's worth, he was more than glad to see Hinata. She pushed him forward and drove him away from his doubts. The sight of her there with gleaming eyes of joy touched his heart. She was more than just a friend, she was precious. "Thank you, Iruka-sensei, Mizuki-sensei, Lord Hokage," the blonde said as he looked to the three and bowed in gratitude. Naruto then went to the wooden sandal and bucket hat wearing man and gave him his signature foxy grin. Kisuke was amused at this little gesture and merely ruffled the younger blonde's hair. "You did good, Naruto," Kisuke said. The former captain then looked to Hinata, who was sitting next to Naruto's chair. "Now, go back to your seat next to your girlfriend." That caused the kid to blush. The Hokage and Iruka chuckled at Kisuke's sly remark. That caught Naruto by surprise, and the reaction he had made the shinobis, as mentioned earlier, stifle some giggling. "Damn it, Kisuke," Naruto growled while gritting his teeth. Not having much of a choice, he slowly made his way back to his seat. Before he could, though, the Hokage called him. "Naruto," said Sarutobi. The boy turned around and looked at the Hokage. "What is it, old man?" Here is inside at the moniker. He can't do anything about it now. Come to my office later this afternoon. I have something to give you. The mere mention of a gift perked up Naruto. "What is it?" "It's a surprise," Hiruzen replied. The blonde made a pout face, but he let it go. He just smiled back at the old man before turning back to sit. He looked to his side and saw Hinata smiling. She was happy for him and he thanked her for giving him the push he needed. "Congratulations, Naruto," the Haiku girl said timidly. Thanks, Hinata, the blonde said as a gentle smile beamed across his face. You know, if it wasn't for you, I might not have graduated today. That got the girl curious. How so? Well, I didn't think I could. I couldn't do a normal clone, no matter how hard I try. I almost gave up until you told me not to. You believed in even when I didn't even believe in myself. So, thank you Hinata. Thank you for giving the push to go on. Hinata's eyes widened at Naruto's sincerity. It wasn't big of a deal to her, to be honest. She just didn't want to see him sad. She never realized that her words meant so much to him. Now that the blonde has sincerely appreciated her encouragement with choice words, she did what you'd expect from her. She fainted. As the two guests exited the room, the old village leader asked a question to his companion. How much of this did you orchestrate? Kisuke simply gave him a devious smirk before replying, everything. And with that, they finally left. Dismissed for the day, Naruto remembered that the Hokage wanted to see him in his office. He was still worried about Hinata suddenly fainting, but he was reassured when Mizuki told him that he'll take care of her. With nothing else to do, he immediately proceeded to Hokage Tower. It didn't take him long to get there, and once he did, the blonde Jinchuriki made his way to the Hokage's office's front door, knocking 3 times. Come in, Hiruzen said from the other side of the door. Naruto slowly opened the door and saw the old man behind his desk, blowing a puff of smoke from his pipe. Naruto got inside, excited at the gift he will receive from the old Sarutobi. Hello Naruto. Before anything else, I want to congratulate you on passing the Genin examinations. Thanks, old man. Now, what's this gift you want to give me? Hiruzen noticed the enthusiastic look on the boy's face. Eager, I see, he sighed in delight. He went to a bookshelf and took out a simple-looking katana. The weapon in hand, the third Hokage handed to Naruto. The boy looked at the blade with a curious expression. It's cool you're giving me a sword and all, but it doesn't look impressive, the boy remarked. He chuckled at that. I knew you'd say that, but remember, looks can be deceiving. Huh? That sword is special, Naruto. It's called a Zanpakuto, the weapon of a Soul Reaper. Chapter 4. The one I want to protect. The Soul Reaper. Now, that got Naruto thinking. For one, he always thought that the Soul Reaper carried some sort of weapon. He initially thought of a scythe, but a katana seemed reasonable. What got him intrigued, however, was that the old man Hokage somewhat implied that the Soul Reaper wasn't a singular entity. No, there were others. And to top it all off, he was being given their weapon. To him, it's just too good to be true. I'm finding it hard to believe that you're giving me the weapon of a Soul Reaper, the blonde said, voicing his suspicion. Hiruzen expected that. Naruto may be the class dunce, but he wasn't stupid. It's true, Naruto, the wizened Hokage said. This weapon here is yours and yours alone. Only you can use this sword properly. Why? As I said earlier Naruto, each one of us has something special that makes us unique. No one in this village can use this sword but you. That is what makes you special. Hearing his grandfather figure call him special, Naruto asked the old man with gleaming eyes, really? Really? He replied while letting out a small chuckle. They say the weapon is an extension of the user, but that blade in your hands takes that notion quite literally. It is special, Naruto, just like you. Not to sound rude or anything, but this is just a plain-looking katana, he commented about the weapon in his hands. Again, the Hokage chuckled. Indeed, it does look like a common katana. Right now, it is still an Asauchi or a blank slate. But over time, it will change to reflect who you are and will eventually become personalized. Huh? What I'm trying to say is, I want you to use that sword. The more you use it, the more it will reflect who you are and, eventually, you will learn its name. Name? This weapon has a name? Yes Naruto. Wouldn't it be easier if you just tell me? I wish I could, but even I don't know. Only you can answer that. Okay. But why is it important to know its name? Names are important, Naruto. They give us our individuality and our identity. To a Zanpakuto, however, its name holds great significance. When you use it, it will become part of you as you will become part of it. Only then will you know its name and unleash its true potential. Only you can do that, Naruto. Only you can use this sword's true power. The blonde was dumbstruck at the Hokage's faith in him. Do you really mean it? I do, that's why you'll be getting special Kenjutsu training aside from your usual ninjutsu training. You'll be trained by Kenjutsu specialists of my choosing. They'll make your training schedule, so you don't need to worry about conflicting with your team training and missions. You're giving me specialized sword training? Naruto asked, still trying to digest what he heard. Of course. How would you be able to use a sword if nobody teaches you? A loud oof escaped the old Hokage as he found Naruto next to him, the boy's hands wrapped around him tightly. He smiled at the boy, enjoying the affectionate gesture. He placed a hand on Naruto's hair as he returned the hug. Thank you, old man. He chuckled at the moniker. You're welcome Naruto. Naruto broke free from the hug and told the village leader that he'll celebrate his graduation by having ramen at Ichiraku's. He wanted to invite his grandfather figure, but Hiruzen just told him he still has paperwork to do. The blonde sighed, a bit disappointed that the old man won't go with him, so he just smiled and waved goodbye before exiting the office. Hiruzen let out a sigh of his own as he moved to the window. He looked at the village from a bird's eye point of view. There he could see Naruto running with joy and excitement in his step. It made him smile, knowing that the young blonde who suffered so long finally received something that was indeed his. After Naruto was no longer in view, he turned his head to the side and said, "You can come out now." Suddenly, a flash of green appeared out of thin air. "How long have you been here, Lord Kisuke?" The Soul Reaper opened his fan with a flick of a wrist and covered his mouth. "Please, drop the Lord title, you're flattering me. And to answer your question, I've been here the whole time." That was a nice speech about his Zanpakuto's name. "Tell me, did you write that down, or was that from the top of your head?" "It was on the spot, to be honest," the old man chuckled. "Do you think it's the right time?" "It is, considering that there are certain parties interested in him. Giving him his Zanpakuto any later would be disastrous." "I guess you're right," the old man said as he turned to the hat-wearing blonde. "He will eventually find out. It's unavoidable considering what he is. I just wish he'll be ready when the time comes." "Oh, he will." Kisuke smirked from behind his fan as his image suddenly fractured and vanished from the office. The old Hokage groaned at the former captain's theatrical antics. He returned to his seat and proceeded to finish the dreaded paperwork he left. Naruto couldn't be any happier. First, he just graduated by performing a forbidden clone jutsu that only he can do. Second, he was given a sword as a gift that only he can use. He was also given his own personal instructor in sword training. Finally, he was now a full-fledged shinobi, his ninja headband proving this accomplishment. He was strolling through the streets of the village heading to Ichiraku's to eat ramen. Along the way, he received the usual glares and resentful looks of the villagers. He didn't care. He was so happy to even bother with them. Why would he? He has people who don't see him as a freak. Hinata, Old Man Hokage, Anaruka, even Tucci and Aim. He has them. He'd be damned if he's going to let anyone ruin this great day. Naruto sat down on one of the stools in the modest ramen stand, leaning his body forward and called the attention of the chef. "Hey, old man." A stout cook behind the counter looked to see who called him. "Naruto. How are you, kid?" "Great, old man Tucci." Naruto replied enthusiastically and noticed another person in the kitchen. "Hey Aim." "Oh, hey Naruto," the brunette greeted. "What'll it be, Naruto?" The ramen chef asked for the blonde's order. "Give me the best miso ramen you have. And make it 3. Tucci seemed surprised at the request. "That's a tall order, Naruto. What's the occasion?" Naruto didn't say anything. He just simply tilted his forehead protector. When the old cook and his daughter saw this, they immediately recognized what it is and its implication. "Congratulations, Naruto," both father and daughter said. Thanks," the blonde replied sheepishly while rubbing the back of his head. It took a few minutes before he got his 3 bowls of miso ramen. Once it reached his table, it was piping hot. He stared at it and admired the different ingredients that make up his favorite dish. Inhaling the savoring aroma, he felt a droop drip from the side of his mouth. The blonde took a pair of chopsticks from the side of the counter and split them apart. He clasped his hands together and said, "Bon appetit," before slurping down his bowl of noodles. After about 5 minutes, he was already in his second bowl. It didn't take him long to finish that when he proceeded with the third bowl, finishing it, too, in record time. The young Jinchuriki sighed, content with the meal. "Thanks, old man. That was the best," remarked the blonde. "Anything for my favorite customer." Naruto slowly got up to return to his apartment. Waving at the store owner and his daughter, he bid them farewell for the day. "Bye Tucci. Bye Aim. Bye Naruto. Come back next time," both father and daughter said. With that, he blissfully headed to his apartment. Taking the usual flight of stairs, Naruto made his way to the front door of his apartment. Grabbing a key in his pocket, he slowly opened the door and entered. He noticed something odd when he came in. There was a small envelope on the table of his small kitchen. Curious, he opened it to see its contents. What he saw stiffened him. Inside was a picture of Hinata. She was unconscious, gagged, and had been tied to a chair. His heart pounded after seeing the image. He felt fear. Fear of what might happen to his friend. He noticed another item inside the envelope. It was a note. Quickly, he opened it and read its contents. "If you want this girl to stay alive, meet me at the shack in Training Ground 44. Don't try and tell the Hokage about this, or your friend dies. Trust me, I'd know." Naruto put down the note. His face paled at the thought of Hinata dying. He wanted to tell the old man, but the culprit might kill her. He could try and fight the kidnapper, but he might not stand a chance. Damn it. Left with no other choice, he left his apartment and went to Training Ground 44. Training Ground 44 is located near the outskirts of the village. Famously known as the Forest of Death, this serves as the home of vicious creatures that would even make the bravest shinobi tremble. This forest is a special training ground used by elite ninjas for survival training. Only the best shinobis walk out of the forest alive. It was around 6 in the evening when Naruto arrived at the shack. Being in the Forest of Death, only a few shinobis know of its location. When Naruto was younger, he would hide in this shack during the annual fox hunts orchestrated by the villagers. Knowing of its dangers, only the bravest or the craziest non-shinobi inhabitant would dare enter this dangerous place. To the blonde, it was a routine walk in the park. The animals in the forest would avoid him every time he was there. He didn't know why, but it helped when he needed to hide there during those rough years. The shack itself wasn't that large. It was mostly made of wood with metal sheets for roofing. It had seen better days though, as most of its walls have crumbled over the years of disuse. The windows had broken glass, and the door was already in a state of decay. It wasn't a livable place, but it was a good place to hide, especially for kidnappers. The blonde grabbed the metal doorknob and twisted it, unlatching the lock, and slowly opened it. The creaking sounds caused him to wince a bit. When the door was fully opened, he saw the girl he came to rescue. It was a bit dark inside, but there was enough light to see what was inside. Hinata was unconscious, just like in the photo earlier. She was still gagged and tied to a chair. He breathed a sigh of relief that nothing more was done to her. Suddenly, he heard foot from behind the unconscious girl. The figure soon emerged from the shadows to reveal a familiar face. The blonde mouth was agape at the person he saw. Mizuki-sensei. Hello, Naruto, the culprit said with a malicious grin. What did you do to her? Naruto yelled at the rogue. Nothing, really. I just injected her with a knockout drug when she fainted to keep her unconscious. It was easy, to be honest. The blue-haired shinobi then took out a kunai from his pouch and aimed it at the unconscious Hinata. The tip pointing at her throat. Naruto's eyes widened as he saw a small trickle of blood flow from the Haika's neck. Put that thing away from her. Not until you do something for me, Mizuki said. Naruto grit his teeth. Okay. What do you want? He said with anger laced in his voice. That's a good boy, the Chunin taunted. Simple, really. All I want you to do is steal the Forbidden Scroll of Sealing. What is this Forbidden Scroll of Sealing? It's a large scroll that contains some of the most powerful jutsus of this village. It's located in the Hokage's mansion, hidden away in a special chamber. Steal it for me and I'll let your girlfriend go, said Hinata's kidnapper, teasing the blonde at the same time. The two heard a moan coming from the unconscious girl. When Hinata opened her eyes, she saw Naruto standing in front of her with fearful eyes. She tried to speak but found her mouth gagged with a rag. She tried to move, but her hands were tied behind the chair, while her feet were restrained. The rag tied on her mouth was removed. She gasped for air and looked at the one who undid it. She was shocked to see their sensei smiling sadistically at her. Mizuki-sensei. Mizuki grabbed the girl's hair and swiftly pulled it back with force. Hinata winced at the pain as she let out a loud grunt. Hinata. Naruto stepped forward to reach her, but kunai near the girl's throat nicked her skin, causing a small scratch that bled. Nah! Mizuki shook his head side to side, still aiming the tip of the kunai at Hinata's neck. Take the scroll and then I'll release the girl. If you don't, she'll be in a pool of her blood. No. The blonde cried. I'll do it. Please, just don't hurt her. Nah Naruto, Hinata whimpered, reeling from the pain caused by the traitorous shinobi. He turned his gaze upon Hinata and tried to reassure her. It's okay, Hinata. Everything will be alright. How touching, Mizuki mocked. Get the scroll and meet me here at midnight. Naruto stared at his former sensei with disgust. Without any other options, he left the shack and went back to his apartment to prepare for tonight. It was surprising for Naruto how easy it was to steal the forbidden scroll. Just as the traitorous bastard said, it was in the Hokage mansion hidden in a secret chamber. The real challenge was getting to the chambers themselves. It was well hidden and was ridden with various traps. It took almost an hour before the traps were disabled and he could safely enter the chamber. Inside the chamber was the forbidden scroll of sealing. It was indeed a large artifact and one cannot miss it if one were to look for it. Removing the last set of traps placed on the scroll itself, Naruto quickly grabbed the item and quickly dashed back to the shack in the Forest of Death. Naruto. The blonde quickly turned his head to the source of the call. Iruka-sensei. What are you doing, Naruto? Why do you have the forbidden scroll? Hinata is in danger. I need to give this to that bastard Mizuki to save her. Mizuki? The sensei asked, surprised. Why would Mizuki do this? I don't know, but I won't let you stop me if it means saving the only girl I call as a friend, the blonde threatened, readying himself to leave. Wait, Naruto. If what you're saying is true, then I'll help you. Really? The blonde perked up from the offer. Yes, I will. But Mizuki must not get that scroll. If he ever gets his hands on that, the village's secret Chiksus might fall into the wrong hands. So, got any suggestions? Iruka gave a mischievous smirk. Oh, I have. For almost 5 hours, Mizuki has been waiting patiently for his little pawn and his prize. However, that patience was starting to wane as the deadline he set was nearing. Where the hell is the little shit? He thought to himself, anxious that there was still no sign of the demon boy. That quickly disappeared when he saw Naruto open the shack's door and entered with the scroll in tow. This made him smirk. Naruto. The bound Haiku cried. I'm here with the scroll, you damn asshole, said the furious blonde. Indeed, you have, the blue-haired Chunin replied. Give it to me. Not until you release Hinata and give her to me, Naruto retorted. A sadistic grin appeared on the traitor's face as he aimed a kunai against Hinata's throat once again. That's not how the deal works, brat. You give me the scroll first, then I give you the girl or this kunai goes an inch deep into your girl. Naruto didn't like the threat, not one bit. He grits his teeth in frustration as he threw the scroll at the bastard. Damn you, you bastard. Mizuki checked the contents of the scroll to see if they were real. Satisfied, he untied the young clan heiress and kicked the chair she was sitting on, launching her forward. Naruto quickly dashed to catch her from falling. He wrapped his left arm around her protectively while pulling out his asauchi, pointing the tip at the traitor. Mizuki cackled. What can a stupid little sword like that do to me? Not much but a distraction. Mizuki raised an eyebrow. Suddenly a huge plume of smoke burst from the scroll. The blue-haired shinobi flinched and tried to swat away the smoke. As the fumes disappeared, the figure of a familiar ninja appeared. It was Iruka. Naruto had his sensei disguise himself as the scroll, while the real one was returned to the mansion. The academy sensei delivered a right hook that connected to Mizuki's left cheek, sending him flying through the walls of the shack, creating a human-sized hole. Naruto. Hinata. Their sensei called. Get out of here while I distract him. Be careful Iruka-sensei, the two said before making a hasty getaway. The scarred Chunin nodded before hearing a buzzing sound. He turned his head back to his opponent only to see a giant shuriken heading his way. He took out a kunai from his pouch and managed to deflect the incoming projectile. He couldn't notice Mizuki coming in and was tackled to the ground and got a fist to the face that made his nose bleed. The attacker tried to get another punch in, but it was countered by an elbow to the face, breaking Mizuki's nose. The blue-haired ninja got off Iruka to regain his composure, while the latter stood up and got to a fighting stance, kunai in hand. The traitorous shinobi grabbed his nose and readjusted it, making his breathing a bit easier. Damn it. Mizuki growled in frustration. I don't know what you're planning with the scroll Mizuki, Iruka began, but I'll be damned if I let you get away with it. Heh, the enemy ninja smirked. Like you can do anything. Says the guy with a broken nose, Iruka mocked. Mizuki growled. Damn you. He lunged. Naruto was running desperately away from Mizuki with Hinata just behind him. He turned his head to see his companion. He smiled. He had successfully rescued Hinata from her captor, but he knows that they aren't out of the woods yet. Thinking back, it was a good idea to let Iruka in on the situation. The sensei had helped him immensely in this rescue mission. He wanted to assist him in the skirmish back at the shack, but the blonde knew well enough that he'll only get in the way. If he had stayed, Iruka would only get distracted instead of focusing on the fight. Right now, my main priority is getting Hinata out of here, Naruto thought to himself. The blonde noticed that Hinata was already beginning to tire from the running. If it were just him, he'd continue because of his massive stamina. He stopped for a moment to check on the girl. She was tired. They had gotten a good distance away from the dueling Chunin that he could let her rest for a moment. Are you alright, Hinata? Naruto asked in a worried tone. I'm fine, Naruto, the girl assured him. Naruto knew that Mizuki might try to get them if ever he manages to incapacitate Iruka, so came up with an idea where they can still gain distance while letting Hinata rest. He sheathed his sword, scooped her up, and carried her in a bridal fashion. Hinata, for one, didn't expect the boy to do this. She blushed furiously at the sudden action. And then Naruto? The girl stammered. The blonde looked at the lavender-eyed girl. I know you're tired, Hinata. I'll carry you while we try to gain more distance from Mizuki. Before they even get to move, a large shuriken was headed in their direction. Naruto was barely able to notice the spinning missile aimed at them, and when he tried to dodge, he was grazed by the sharp edges of the weapon, leaving a large wound that ran across his back. Arg! The blonde cried out in pain. Naruto! Hinata yelled, worried. They both stumbled down, Naruto still clutching Hinata protectively and making sure no harm would befall her. The young heiress saw the large wound on his rescuer's back and paled at the blood gushing from it. Oh god. You're back. She exclaimed. Naruto got back up and scanned the girl. Aside from a few patches of dirt, she had no scratches. He scanned the area for the source of the shuriken, and sure enough, Mizuki was standing on a branch with another giant shuriken in his hand. The young blonde stood up and drew his sword, gripping the handle tightly while standing between the assailant and the heiress. "I'm alright, Hinata," the blonde tried to ease her but failed. "No, you're not," she yelled in concern. The blue-haired Chiknin merely laughed at the pathetic display of heroism. "You think you have what it takes to stop me?" "Hell, yeah I do," the boy answered furiously. Shadow clone Jitsu. Naruto produced 10 copies of himself, all ready to strike at their target. With the original giving the signal, they all charged forward. Mizuki jumped from the branch and landed on the ground. He threw shurikens at the blonde, but they were deflected. Once the first clone closed a distance, it did a downward slash that aimed for the head. The enemy ninja dodged the attack, plunged the gigantic kunai into the clone, dispelling it. 2 clones came in and attacked Mizuki while he was busy with the previous clone. One clone did another downward slash. It was blocked, but Mizuki didn't see the other one come and did a leg sweep, causing him to lose balance and tumble forward. The other that did the sword strike kicked him in the gut. He gasped as the wind left his system. Pissed, he threw 4 kunes at the 2 clones. One was hit and immediately dispelled, while the other continued to press the attack. It tried to do a thrust, but the attack was dodged, allowing the blue-haired traitor to ram a kunai to its head, causing it to poof out of existence. The remaining clones continued to attack the rogue ninja. 2 copies were quickly taken down by one quick swing from the massive shuriken. One managed to deliver a slash to Mizuki's back, leaving a large cut on the traitor's torso. "Arg!" the Chiknin yelled in pain. Mizuki struck the clone that winded him with a powerful backhand, causing it to disperse. The 2 remaining clones simultaneously did an upward slash that the rogue Chiknin managed to dodge. One clone was punched so hard that it dispelled. The remaining clone charged but was cut down by a kunai to the throat, ending its existence. He looked at the blonde standing in front of the wide-eyed girl, clearly using himself as a shield. Mizuki charged forward and Naruto did the same. Their weapons clashed. The sound of metals clanging echoed throughout the forest. Naruto was overpowered and got pushed back several feet. The blonde then felt a fist collide with his gut, launching him upward. He was able to land on his feet, but that punch took some wind from his lungs. He clutched his abdomen to ease to pain, while still pointing his sword at the assailant. Again, Mizuki charged. He threw a wild haymaker that missed. Taking the opportunity, Naruto threw his own punch that connected to his enemy's side. The Chiknin flinched. Angered, he kicked the blonde to the side. Naruto managed to put his arms up, but the kick still managed to get through his defense. It sent him flying across the forest and landed with a thud on the ground. That little scuffle left Mizuki panting. He didn't want to admit it, but the little runt was a handful to deal with. The shadow clones made good use of the numbers advantage, which he didn't like. He didn't expect the brat to land some good hits on him. The rogue always thought that Naruto had the worst taijutsu in the entire class. To even land a good hit on him was just surprising. Naruto tried to get to his feet. Gripping his sword, he slowly got up to a battle stance. Mizuki charged at the blonde once again, only to get a strike to his left arm. He cringed at the pain, then noticed that it was numb and limp. He looked over to who attacked him and found the Haika heiress in her gentle fist stance. The girl lunged forward to deliver another strike. Mizuki dodges the incoming attack only for Hinata to swiftly readjust herself and hit his shoulder. Again, Mizuki winced at the pain, his whole left arm was practically useless at this point. Now angrier than ever, he dashed towards Hinata for a backhand slash with his giant shuriken. The girl managed to dodge, but didn't see the enemy's left arm heading her way. The blue-haired traitor swung so hard that his left hand flailed towards the girl. It connected and the strike sent the young heiress tumbling to the ground. "Hinata!" Naruto cried. Suddenly, a figure appeared from the trees as its feet landed on Mizuki's back. Naruto got a good look at the individual and smiled. It was their sensei Iruka. He was beaten up from his earlier skirmish with Mizuki, but that didn't stop him from coming to the 2 students' aid. "Naruto," their sensei called. "Go get Hinata and get the hell out of here." Without hesitation, Naruto quickly made his way to Hinata, who was just about to get up. "Hinata, are you alright?" Naruto asked. The heiress placed a hand on her cheek where the hit connected. "I think I'm alright." "Oh, thank goodness," exclaimed the blonde as he breathed a sigh of relief. Back with the 2 Chiknin, Mizuki and Iruka were trading blows with one another. They were evenly matched as fighters. But Mizuki, being opportunistic, threw some dirt into Iruka's eyes, leaving him momentarily blind. This gave the traitor ninja more than enough time to put down the Chiknin instructor for good. Mizuki kicked Iruka in the chest and sent him back a few feet. A slash to the chest followed. The sensei managed to back away a bit and only got a shallow wound on the chest. That didn't stop the attacker though, as Mizuki once again got a kick in Iruka's face. The academy sensei got sent flying before landing on the ground barely conscious. Mizuki turned his attention once again to the two brats that managed to wound him earlier. He dashed towards the two runts while they were distracted. He kicked Hinata by the stomach and sent her crashing into a nearby tree. "Hinata!" Naruto cried before another kick to the head sent him flying into an opposite tree. The treacherous shinobi then walked towards Naruto and kicked him again. This caused him to spew out some blood from his mouth. The blonde leaned back on the tree to face the attacker. His teacher-turned-traitor then put his foot on Naruto's chest, earning him a cry of pain from the young blonde. "Naruto!" Hinata cried just as she saw the blonde when she came to. "You little shit," Mizuki spat. "Because of you, all my plans are ruined. I'm going to kill you and your girl for trying to double-cross me." He looked at Hinata for a moment and had an idea. Staring back at the blonde, a small devious smirk crept on his face. "Do you want to know why the villagers hate you, demon?" "No, Mizuki." Haruka yelled at the traitor. "Don't tell him. Don't tell him the village secret." "What secret?" Naruto barely said. "Ah. The village's darkest secret. The one that involves you." "What about me?" "Do you remember the story of the nine-tailed fox?" This earned Mizuki a nod. That night on October 10th was the night that dreaded fox attacked our village 12 years ago. The Hokage that time, Lord Fourth, managed to defeat the fox and kill it by sacrificing his life. At least that's what the official reports say. "Stop, Mizuki. They don't need to hear this, especially Naruto," the academy teacher pleaded. The traitorous rogue didn't listen and continued. "The true story is that the demon fox didn't die. How can you kill a demon? Obviously, you can't. So, there's only one thing to do. Seal it. There needed to be a sacrifice that day, and there was one orphan boy that'd make the perfect container." Naruto's eyes widened as he realized who the sacrifice was. He was born on the 10th of October 12 years ago. He was an orphan. Everyone in the village treated him harshly and called him a demon, a monster, or a murderer. It was him. Seeing the boy's expression, Mizuki knew that the kid finally realized the truth. "You are that sacrifice, Naruto. You are the vessel for the nine-tailed fox. You are its Jinchuriki and the village's reminder of all the deaths on that fateful night. You are a demon." "No." A voice cried out, getting everyone's attention. Everyone turned their heads to see Hinata with tears flowing down her cheeks. "Naruto is no demon," she vehemently said. "He may be the vessel for the demon fox, it doesn't make him any less human. If anything, he should be hailed as a hero for keeping all of us safe." The Hokage understood the difference between the content and the container. She knew that Naruto was a kind person despite all his faults. Naruto listened to Hinata's words. A pool of tears slowly formed in the corner of his eyes. He expected the girl to turn on him, but no, her belief in him just grew stronger now that the revelation was out. She even called him a hero for keeping that damned fox at bay. Just like earlier during graduation, the heiress once again believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. Truly, she was a friend worth fighting for. Seeing as the plan to turn Hinata against the demon brat failed, Mizuki's frustration grew even more. "And here I thought I could get the girl to turn on you once the secret was out," the blue-haired traitor said as his head shifted to gaze at the boy under his feet. "I wasn't planning on having witnesses anyway, so I'll just have to kill both you and the girl." With one quick thrust, Mizuki plunged the pointed end of his massive shuriken into Naruto's chest. The blonde gasped as the metal weapon went deeper into his torso, causing him to spew out blood from the chest wound in his mouth. Hinata's eyes widened as she saw the horrific scene. "No, Naruto." She cried out his name in desperation as she ran towards the boy. "You fucking bastard." Haruka yelled as he lunged at the traitor, tackling him down and punching his nose, breaking it once again. Hinata managed to get to the injured boy and held him in her arms. She hugged him tightly while tapping his face to keep him conscious. The blonde coughed blood as he gazed upon the heiress. She was crying. He made her cry. Slowly, he reached his hand and caressed her innocent face. "Hi Hinata," he said as his voice slowly falters. "Naruto," the girl replied as she clutched him close to her. "Stay with me, Naruto. Please, stay with me." The blonde smiled at his friend's concern. The tears in his eyes finally flowed as he watched her bawl out on his bloody shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Hinata." "Don't say that, Naruto. You'll be fine, I swear." "I'm sorry, Hinata. I made you cry." "Naruto, please stop. Don't leave me. I can't live without you." "She can't live without me," Naruto thought as he heard Hinata's cries for him. "Why? I'm nothing special. I'm a human sacrifice. I'm worthless. What did she see in me that made me so special? Don't leave me, please. You're the closest person I could call a friend and," she hesitated for a moment, "I see you more than just a friend. I like you, Naruto. So please, don't die before I even get to know you." "She likes me more than just a friend," he thought, surprised. No one. Not even one in the village ever thought of him that way. At most they were indifferent. But here was one who saw past all his faults. Here was one person willing to become his friend. Here was one person who liked him for who he is. A sudden drive sparked inside Naruto's heart. A feeling of joy for this wonderful creature calling his name and anger for the one that caused her sadness. He didn't want to go and leave her. He can't, now that there was one who needed him, who wanted him. I can't die. I want to live. I need to live. I want to protect those precious to me. I want to protect them. Protect her. The voice called out to him. Then fight. Chapter 5. Say my name. Naruto woke up and found himself inside a dark chamber. It was very reminiscent of a dungeon. The place had stone walls, hanging chains, and a chair at the very center. He looked around more and saw a red carpet that covered the stone floor, while the walls were decorated with various weapons. The carpet had a giant yin and yang symbol at the center, while having the kanji letters for earth, fire, water, air, and lightning, all evenly spaced out. The throne, if you can call it that, had gilded armrests with fox head carvings. The drapes that covered the rest of the throne had strange matrices that would remind you of a well-crafted seal. It is magnificent, to say the least. Then Naruto remembered the voice. "Where are you?" the blonde yelled. No one answered. "Where are you?" he asked again. Still nothing. "Where are you?" he yelled at the top of his lungs. "Here," the voice finally answered. Naruto turned around and saw the one who called out to him. It was an adolescent man with bright red hair with some forelocks running down the side of his face. He had a lightly tanned complexion and a face that showed innocence. His green eyes, however, betrayed him by depicting cold and calculating mischief. He wore a turtlenecked white long-sleeve shirt under a red sleeveless kikogi with a flap in the front that stretches down to his knees. He wore white shidabaki and black sandals. Finishing his outfit was a white sash tied around his waist slightly tilted to the left. "So, you finally came," the man said. "I wondered when you'd show up." "Where are we?" the young blonde asked. "We are in your mind," replied the stranger before he added, "I must say, you have a rather fine taste in decor, despite the heap you call an apartment you live in." That irked Naruto a bit. It's not like I was given a choice where to live. The red-headed stranger covered his mouth with a balled fist, trying to hide a chuckle that quickly escapes into laughter. "Is this a dream?" The strangers gradually stopped laughing and gave the young blonde a mischievous smile. "You could say that." Naruto had a weird feeling coming from this stranger. He was sure that he never met him before, but somehow, the man felt so familiar. "Who are you? How come I get the feeling that I've known you before?" The stranger curled a hand and covered his mouth again to hide a chuckle. "You don't know, do you?" He earned a nod. "Well, you should. I've been with you since the day you were born. I'm part of you," he let out a mischievous smirk. "I'm sealed in you." Naruto's eyes widened when the last sentence was spoken. In front of him was the creature that terrorized the village years ago. This man was the reason for all his suffering. This was him. "Why, you're the nine-tailed fox," he stammered as he yelled the stranger's name while pointing a finger at him. Nine-Tails snickered at the boy's expression. It was amusing. Slowly, a large pair of fox ears emerged from the man's head and a distinctive nine tails appeared and started to flutter behind him. The fur on the ears and tails were brown with an orange hue. "Congratulations. You finally met your tenant. Oh, and by the way, Nine Tails is only a title. That's not my real name." Naruto clenched his fist and grit his teeth. "You're the reason why I suffered for years." Nine Tails' expression quickly changed to a serious one. The boy was right. He was the reason for Naruto's suffering, but it wasn't intentional. He never even wanted to go anywhere near the village in the first place. But that is a story for another day, since a more pressing matter is at hand. "You're right. I am the cause for all your pain, but that is not the issue right now," the fox demon said as he pointed towards Naruto's chest. Naruto looked in the direction the fox was pointing at and saw a gaping hole at the center of his chest. "What the hell? That hole doesn't just represent what's happening here in your subconscious, it also reflects what happened in the real world." "The real world?" the blonde asked before a flash of images suddenly ran through his eyes. It depicted everything that happened tonight. Stealing the forbidden scroll, Hinata's kidnapping, and the fight with Mizuki. The last image he was made him tore his heart. It was Hinata in tears and calling his name while clutching his limp body for dear life. "Such a sorrowful sound coming from such an angelic creature," Nine Tails remarked. "I need to go back," Naruto mumbled. The fox demon took a glance at the blonde with a raised eyebrow. "And how will you do that?" "I don't know," he said. "But I'll do whatever it takes." "But you're dying. You think that someone who's dying can do anything?" "I don't care," he yelled. "I will go back. Even if I have to return from the dead, I don't care." "Why? Why do you wish to go back?" "Because I have loved ones to protect," the Jinchuriki answered with vigor. "I want to protect them. I want to protect her." The demon fox tilted his head up, never leaving the image of the blonde from his sight. His frown changed into a foxy grin, and the green eyes that held mischief now bore pride in them. "Finally," he exclaimed. "A reason worth rallying for." He grabbed the boy's hand, and a burst of crimson energy emanated from the demon fox. That energy then gradually transferred to the boy. "I have the power to bring you back. This energy flowing through you is my power. I'm giving you this because, for the first time in 1,000 years, I will finally serve the purpose I was given." The boy's body flowed with renewed vitality as the energy flowed to him. The hole in his chest began to collapse and ultimately disappeared. Naruto looked up to the demon fox and was met with eyes that depict steely determination. "There is only one way to protect your loved ones," his voice was calm before rising in tone. "Hunt all evil. Search them where they are and eradicate every single one of them. Leave none remaining. Decimate every vile creation in your wake. Only then will you ensure the safety of those precious to you. Only then will you ensure the safety of the one you love." His grip became tighter as more of his energy flowed into Naruto like a raging torrent. "Wreak havoc and say my name." "Ah!" Iruka screamed as he hit his head into a nearby tree, knocking him unconscious. "That takes care of that," said a bloodied Mizuki while holding his giant shuriken. He then looked in the direction of the two genins. He walked in their direction and smirked when he noticed that Naruto stopped breathing. "Good riddance," he said to himself as he stared at the boy's lifeless body. "Finally. The demon brat died. I did a service to the village by getting rid of that pest. Since you're so attached to him, I might as well have to kill you too." Hinata's eyes grew wide when he heard Mizuki's words. She unconsciously tuned out the blatant death threat and only heard the words "he died," which referred to Naruto. "No," she cried while gripping the bloody boy in her arms even tighter. "He can't die. He just can't. DCH. It doesn't matter. You're going to die anyway." The traitorous Chunin raised his weapon high and aimed it at the girl. Hinata closed her eyes and dug her face beside Naruto's head. Mizuki grinned at the pathetic sight before yelling, "Die." The shuriken plummeted towards the two. "I won't let you lay a finger on her." Naruto's eyes snapped back open with unbridled fury and called the real name of his tailed beast. "Wreak havoc, Kurama." The powerful burst of crimson energy sent Mizuki flying back. He landed on the ground hard as he groaned from the pain of the impact. When he looked at the source of the energy, he suddenly felt a massive pressure weigh over him. It wasn't killing intent. It was far more potent and suffocating. His eyes widened when the boy who he thought was dead stood up. The wound in Naruto's chest was missing and all the injuries he got from earlier have vanished. From behind, he could see the aura Naruto was releasing take the form of the dreaded demon fox. In the center of the commercial district, Kisuke Urahara was sipping green tea while having an idle conversation with Tessai Tsukubishi when they felt a powerful surge of spiritual pressure from a distance. The buff former Kid Corps commander tilted his head in the direction of the pressure. Kisuke, on the other hand, gave a small smirk and continued sipping his drink. "Do you feel that, Kisuke?" asked Tessai. "I do," the green-wearing blonde replied. "It seems he has awakened his Zanpakuto. I didn't imagine that he'd be able to awaken it this early." "True. But it just makes everything a lot more interesting." The mustachioed man thought for a moment. "When do you think will Yoruichi be returning?" Kisuke chuckled a bit. "I think she's nearby." The former captain placed his cup onto a table and stood up. "Well, time to meet up with Hiruzen." On the outskirts of the village near the gate, a purple-haired woman was returning from one of her long travels. With her was a boy a year or two older than Naruto. He had long white hair with some red face paint around his eyes and small red circles on his forehead. He wore a gray kimono with long sleeves and black shorts. The entire outfit was finished by a large rope tied into a bow behind his back. The woman tilted her head when she noticed the massive pressure coming from a distance. She let out a cheeky grin appear on her face. The boy noticed this and inquired, "What is it, Lady Yoruichi?" Yoruichi looked to her ward, never letting the grin fade from her face. "Things just got a lot more interesting in the village, Kimimaro. Let's go." Hiruzen stumbled a bit inside his office when he sensed the pressure coming from Training Ground 44. It was the same potent energy that Kisuke released a few years back. The only difference was that this pressure was laced with a familiar demonic aura, one he hoped to not feel again. Naruto. What Mizuki noticed above all was Naruto's sword. It wasn't the same simplistic katana he had before. It changed. It took the shape of the fourth Hokage's Thunder God kunai. The main blade was 6 inches wide from the base, tapering to a sharp point at nearly 2.5 feet long. The two side blades were protruding from the sides of the main blade. Its bases were 4 inches wide and tapered to a point at about a foot long. There were complex seal matrices written on the blade that extends from the habaki to all 3 tips. The handle was wrapped in fine ornamental orange leather above black-colored ray skin. The habaki was carved from gold and had the design of a fox head opening its mouth. The pommel, too, was carved from gold. Attached to it were 9 tassels made of small golden chains. Each chain had the following symbols. The kanji letters for wind, water, earth, lightning, and fire. The two halves of yin and yang. The Uzumaki swirl and a miniature thunder god kunai. What the fuck? The rogue ninja exclaimed to himself, still astonished that the demon brat isn't dead. He's supposed to be dead. He stopped breathing. There was a fucking hole in his chest. How? Hinata's eyes widened when she saw Naruto stood up. She was sure the boy had died in her arms. Naruto turned to her and knelt, wiping the tears in her face, and said, "You're safe now, Hinata. No one will hurt you anymore." The girl whimpered as tears escaped her eyes. Overcome with joy, she lunged forward and hugged the boy tightly. "You're alive. Thank goodness you're alive." Naruto was surprised by the sudden gesture and even blushed a bit. He smiled as he rubbed the back of the girl with his free hand. "I'm not going anywhere, Hinata, now that I have someone waiting for me." That made the Haiku heiress blush. Naruto let go of her and turned to face the treacherous Mizuki. "This is the end for you, Mizuki." Mizuki scoffed. "You think I'm afraid of you just because you got a fancy sword?" Naruto smirked as he plunged his awakened Zanpakuto into the ground. The small tassel with a Uzumaki swirl wrapped around his right arm. Crimson spiritual energy emanated from the weapon before two massive golden chains made of chakra burst from the earth, heading towards the blue-haired traitor. "Shit." The Chunin exclaimed as he leaped to dodge the incoming projectile. A loud crash came from where he once stood. He looked and saw a 10-foot crater in the impact zone. "Damn. If that hit me, I would have been done for." He looked at the blonde only to see his image blur out of existence. Then a cold metallic sensation swept through his lower abdomen. When Mizuki looked down, his eyes grew wide when a large gush of blood was flowing from his body. He looked behind him to see Naruto, who held his exotic weapon back, blood covering its blade. The tassel for the flying thunder god wrapping around his arm this time. How? He barely said before he dropped down, bisected by the waist. Now with Mizuki dead, Naruto's body suddenly felt heavy. Exhaustion and fatigue washed over him as the battle finally took its toll, rendering him unconscious. He fell to the ground, asleep from the energy he exerted. Hinata quickly rushed to the fallen boy. She checked to see if there was anything wrong with him. There was none. She sighed with relief in her breath. The heiress then diverted her attention to their injured sensei. He had considerable injuries sustained in the fight, but he will live. Suddenly, she felt a powerful presence approaching them. She stood up and got into a fighting stance, ready to face whoever was coming. Out of the forest came two figures. One was a dark-skinned female with dark purple hair, while the other was a boy a year older than them with long white hair. "Relax, kid," the woman said. "I'm here to help. My name is Uruchi Shimin and I'm a friend of Naruto." Hinata dropped her guard but was still cautious of the two strangers. Himimaro, the woman, now known as Uruchi, called the boy that was with her. "Take the injured one near the tree while I take care of Naruto and the girl." Himimaro nodded and went to the injured Iruka, lifting him on his shoulder. Uruchi went to the sleeping blonde and checked for any injuries. Once she found out there was none, the former 2nd Division captain picked up the boy and placed him on her shoulders. She then turned to Hinata and said, "Let's go. Naruto's going to need some rest after whatever he went through right now. And I could say the same thing for you, young lady." And they headed back to the village. The wizened Hokage was in his office reading the latest report on the attempted theft of the Forbidden Scroll. He found out that Mizuki kidnapped the Haiku heiress and used her as leverage to force Naruto into stealing the scroll. With the help of Iruka, they were able to eliminate the threat and are now in the hospital needing some treatment. The old man took a whiff from his pipe and blew out the smoke before he heard a knock on the door. Considering the events that transpired recently, Hiruzen knew who was visiting. With a sigh, he looked at the door and said, "Enter." The door opened and entered Kisuke Urahara and Tessai Tsukubishi. Sarutobi motioned for the two to take a seat as he continued to smoke his pipe. He took his seat behind his desk and gave the two the latest report of the incident. Tessai reached out and grabbed the documents to scan its contents. Kisuke, on the other hand, was fanning himself. "I understand that your presence here is related to the incident that occurred." "Indeed, it is, Hiruzen," Urahara replied. "Tell me, have you found a suitable teacher that would train him in Kenjutsu?" "I do." Hiruzen took two file folders from one of his drawers and handed it to Kisuke. The blonde Soul Reaper took the folder and read its contents. "I have recommended both Ikao Yuzuki and Heiichi Echo to be Naruto's Kenjutsu trainers. They are experts in the art and they have the necessary experience that will guide the boy into a fine swordsman." Isu closed the folder, satisfied with the old man's choice. "There's a slight change of plan." The Hokage raised an eyebrow. "Oh? What would that be?" "I will teach Naruto swordsmanship." Hiruzen's eyes widened. "But does that mean Heiichi and Ikao will no longer tutor Naruto in Kenjutsu?" "No, no, no," Kisuke said, seeing the man's confusion and chuckling after. "They will still teach the kid and to be honest, you chose great teachers for him. That said, they won't be enough for Naruto now that he awakened his Shikai. Shikai? Hiruzen inquired. It's the initial awakened state of his Zanpakuto, the former captain explained. A Zanpakuto has two awakened stages. The initial stage is called Shikai. This stage is when the sword spirit and the wielder come to an agreement. The final stage is called the Bankai. This is when the sword spirit and the wielder finally gain a thorough and deep understanding with one another, unleashing the Soul Reaper's full potential. So, what does Naruto awakening his Shikai have to do with it? Genjutsu is good for pure sword fighting, but he also needs to incorporate the abilities of his Zanpakuto when in battle. That is where I come in. I will teach him Zanjutsu, the art of the Zanpakuto. I assume this art is only for Soul Reapers. Yes. And since I'm the only one with a Zanpakuto, I'm the only qualified person to teach Naruto. Hiruzen thought about this for a moment. He couldn't deny that both Ikugao and Hade are capable sword fighters, but the awakening of Naruto's Shikai added a variable that must not be overlooked. Seeing that Kisuke was the only one qualified, it made sense that he will take up teaching the boy along with the two chosen shinobi. That seems reasonable, the Hokage said. Anything else you want to suggest? This time, it was Tessai who spoke up. He had finished reading the incident report a little while ago and had listened to the conversation between his fellow former captain and the village leader. I will teach Naruto in performing Kidm spells. Curious, the aged Sarutobi asked, and what is this Kidm you were saying? Tessai adjusted his glasses before he spoke. Kidm is very much like Jutsu here in your world. Instead of hand seals and molding chakra, we use incantations and harness spiritual energy to perform attacks, shields, and even heal injuries. I see, Sarutobi said. What else do you want to talk about? Orochi has returned, Kisuke replied nonchalantly. Lady Orochi has returned. Hiruzen exclaimed in surprise. Yes, Tessai confirmed. I'm pretty sure she'll be interested in teaching the young man the flash step, which is similar to your body flicker technique. And as if on cue, the door opened to reveal Orochi and Kimimaro. Both individuals entered the Hokage's office and were greeted by its current occupants. The village leader noticed the unknown boy who was with a female Soul Reaper and decided to inquire about his identity. Good to have you back, Lady Orochi. If I may, who is this young man with you? Kimimaro stepped forward and bowed at the village leader. Good evening, Lord Hokage. I am Kimimaro Kagaya and I hail from the land of water. This took Sarutobi by surprise. He knew the current state of hidden mist caused by the bloodline purge. This, in turn, led to the civil war that was raging within the land of water. The Kagaya clan was directly involved in instigating the whole event when they murdered the nation's daimyo. They were known to be bloodthirsty and brutal warriors who care nothing more than proving their superiority. The boy in front of him though, Kimimaro, was different. He was calmer and more reserved compared to the rumors about the clan. He might be different, but it doesn't mean that the young man won't fight like a beast if need be. Good evening to you too, Kimimaro, replied the Hokage. He then looked to the female Deathbringer and asked, how may I help you, Lady Orochi? We just came from the hospital. Kimimaro and I brought Naruto, his academy sensei, and a girl by the name of Hinata there for treatment. Any word on their injuries? The academy teacher, Iruka Yamino, had several injuries that resulted from a fierce fight. So far, he was the worst for wear. As for the girl, she received some bruises from the attacker, but nothing major. Then we have Naruto. Hinata said that she saw him with life-threatening injuries. Somehow, all those injuries healed. I assume that it was caused by awakening his Shikai. Now he's exhausted and sleeping in one of the wards. The old man was relieved. None of the three were in danger. How about the assailant Mizuki? Dissected? Hiruzen was surprised. By whom? Naruto. Oh. I see, was all he could say. It wasn't far-fetched to think that Naruto would be able to kill Mizuki considering the power he just unleashed a while back. Oh, the green-clad Soul Reaper remembered something. This girl. Hinata, was it? I hope it's not troubling if you put her in the same team as Naruto. It's not really. Though I would like to ask why. Naruto needs to make connections outside his usual circle. Hinata will serve as the bridge that'll get him to open up more with his peers. I will take it into consideration when the academy faculty and I decide the team placements. Thank you, Kisuke said before he stood up and bowed at the village leader. If you'll excuse us, we'll be on our way. Of course, Lord Kisuke. Lord Tessai. And Lady Orochi. Sheesh. Stop with the lord already, the blonde sheepishly said while rubbing the back of his head. All three went out and left the Hokage's office. Once everyone was out, Hiruzen stood up and looked at the village through the window. His thoughts still lingering around the future of his late successor's son. Outside the office, the three Soul Reapers were having their discussion. Is there something more than just making the Haikyuu an emotional anchor for Naruto? Or is there a deeper reason why you want her and the boy on the same team, the female Soul Reaper asked. Kisuke couldn't help but let out a sly grin escape his face. You know me, Yuruchi. There is always more than what meets the eye. Where does Kimimaro play into this? She asked, referring to her new ward. I can't tell you yet until I finished my research. But I do believe he has a large role to play in the events to come. You sound prepared, Kisuke Tessai remarked. By the way, is there any news about that organization? Yuruchi turned to Tessai. There is. It's just as Kisuke expected. They are after Naruto and the others, but they aren't going to make a move in a few years. I see, the blonde nodded. What other information have you gathered together with Jiraiya? So far, others like Naruto are safe. There is the problem with the three tails, however. Oh? And what may this problem be? When we were in the hidden mist, we found out that the Mizukage was under some type of hypnosis. That would explain his rather barbaric behavior recently. Do you think they're responsible for it? The buff man inquired. There is a possibility, considering it would need to be a powerful genjutsu to hypnotize a Jinchuriki. Yuruchi then turned to the green-wearing companion. What are your thoughts, Kisuke? The former 12th Division captain thought for a moment. A Jinchuriki is very hard to put under genjutsu. To do that, a powerful illusion is needed. There's only one plausible explanation he can come up with. Manjukam Sharingan. Both Tessai and Yuruchi looked at the blonde and raised an eyebrow. So, it's an Uchiha who's responsible, the mustachioed man said. I'm positive. And I might know who is this mystery Uchiha is. Who? The lady asked. Madara Uchiha. The two had wide eyes when they heard who was responsible for the chaos in the hidden mist. They did see, however, that Kisuke wasn't that worried. He was smiling deviously. Yuruchi wondered why he wasn't worried, so she asked. You don't look surprised. I have a few thousand contingencies in store for them, he said as they all head back to the shop. The tight grip on his hand stirred Naruto from a deep slumber. His face twitched as a ray of sunlight struck his eyes as he slowly opened them. He groaned, still feeling the strain from using so much energy in the fighting last night, but the feeling of a soft bed made it easier to relax. Soft bed? The blonde's eyes shot open to see his surroundings. He wasn't in the forest anymore. No, he was in a room painted in neutral colors. Mostly beige and white. The first thing he smells was medicine. Now that was strange. Why would there be medicine in this room? Unless he was in a hospital. Now, that made much more sense. He was in a hospital, but the question now is. Who brought him here? He remembered the hand that clutched his own. Turning to see who it was, he saw the familiar Haikyuu princess sleeping beside his bed, her hand entangled with his. He smiled at himself in the sight. He did it. He saved her. She may have some bruises, but the important thing is she was safe. I see you more than just a friend. I like you. The blonde recalled her words. He kept looking at her and to be honest with himself, Hinata looked cute. Did I just think she was cute? He was suddenly snapped from his daze when four figures entered his room. He quickly recognized them to be Old Man Hokage, Kisuke, Yuruchi, and Tessai. The sound of the doors creaking open woke up the sleeping Haikyuu. She opened her eyes to see Naruto already wide awake looking at her. Hey, Hinata, he said with a wide smile plastered on his face. The girl's cheeks turned red at the proximity between her and her crush. Hello Naruto, she stuttered. I hope I'm not disturbing anything, the older blonde mischievously teased as he and the rest entered the ward. Shut up, Kisuke. The boy yelled in irritation. Oh, come now, Naruto, this time it was Yuruchi who began teasing them. Introduce us to your girlfriend. That sly little comment earned her an eep. From Hinata who immediately turned beet red. Naruto also turned red but just stayed silent for a good 2 minutes. Yuruchi. Tessai called the dark-skinned female. I think you broke them. The blonde shook his head and saw Yuruchi looking at him and Hinata with a devious smile. Oh god. The boy cried. It's Yuruchi. Please don't turn into a cat and scar me for life. That outburst earned him laughter from all three Soul Reapers. Hiruzen, not knowing what the boy meant, simply shrugged it off as a prank gone wrong. For Hinata, she was still in an embarrassment-induced daze. The Hokage coughed to get the attention of everyone. Good morning Naruto. Hinata, he greeted the two. Hinata stood up and bowed at the visitors. Good morning Lord Hokage. Hey, Gramps. Naruto greeted. Say, how's Iruka-sensei? He's fine, Naruto. But that's not why we're here, the aged Hokage replied while gesturing to the trio. Congratulations, Naruto, Kisuke said as he stepped forward. Not only did you graduate, but you also awakened your Zanpakuto. Huh? The blonde questioned for a moment until he remembered what he saw last night. His sword transformed. Oh. My sword changed. That's right, Naruto, the older blonde agreed. Did you find out its name? I did, the whiskered boy replied. Kurama is its name. If I may, what is this Zanpakuto why you speak of and who is this Kurama person? The Haikyuu princess asked, wanting to know the details. Hiruzen already had an idea who or what this Kurama character might be, but he was still apprehensive of answering the girl's questions. It was still a capital offense to divulge top secret information to just anyone, but Hinata witnessed everything that happened. It's even possible that she already knows the truth. Taking the chance, Hiruzen asked the girl. Hinata, the girl looked at the village leader. Do you already know what's inside Naruto? Yes, Lord Hokage. I do. She looked at Naruto and gave him a warm smile before looking back at the Hokage. It still doesn't change the way I look at Naruto. If anything, we should all be thankful for him. All four adults smiled at the understanding the girl demonstrated. Naruto was incredibly lucky to have someone like her in his life. Thank you, Hinata, replied the boy. A small pool of tears formed in his eyes. The girl in question blushed once again at the boy. That's good to know, the green-clad Soul Reaper said before looking at Hiruzen. So, it's okay to tell them, right? The old man nodded. The reason why we're here was that Naruto will be getting some special training. You already have Kenjutsu teachers, right Naruto? This earned him a nod from the younger blonde. That's not the only training you'll be getting. The boy got curious. It's not. You just awakened Shikai. The first stage of a Zanpakuto. Your two Kenjutsu masters won't be able to help you in that department, so I'll be taking responsibility for helping you master it. But you're just a shopkeeper. The blonde boy exclaimed. Well, a sly grin appeared on his face. You shouldn't take things at face value. Anyway, that's not all the training you'll get. It isn't? Yup. I will teach you some kid, well Yuruchi will teach you some stealth. After all, she is the closest thing to a ninja from where we come from. But, what about the team placements? Don't worry, Naruto, Hiruzen assured the boy. Since the incident last night, the academy has been in turmoil. The teaching staff and the headmaster are currently dealing with the repercussions of Mizuki's betrayal and Iruka's injuries. Not to mention the traumatic experience you just went through. Suffice to say, the team placement will be postponed for a few weeks until the whole ordeal gets sorted out. This will give you enough time to train with your Kenjutsu masters as well as these three. Exactly. Urahara exclaimed. So, what do you say? Naruto thought about this. The power he released during his fight with Mizuki was different compared to chakra. He knew all about chakra. It was practically drilled into his brain while he was still in the academy. The power he had, however, was purer and more refined, like it was one of the most fundamental energies to exist. He had no idea where it came from or how he got it, but if he was able to access it, then he should learn how to properly use it too. Okay, the blonde replied. I'll agree to it. Great. Kisuke joyfully blatted. But the kid blonde added, I want to know how I got these powers. I want the whole story and I want none of it left in the dark. Do you understand? We were going to tell you anyway. So, sure. Oh, and one more thing. And what would that be? I want Hinata in on this too. This got the girl's attention quickly. She just learned last night of the village's darkest secret and now Naruto is trusting her with the rest of his secrets he'll soon discover. She already knows what's inside me, so what's the point in keeping her in the dark anyway? Iruchi got to Hinata and stared at the girl intently. Naruto has placed a lot of trust in you, young girl. But you need to understand that his secrets are very confidential. If they ever get out or the wrong people ever get their hands on it, it could put his life in danger. The girl's eyes widened when she realized the implications if that were to happen. Again, the image of Mizuki thrusting his weapon into the blonde's chest replayed itself in her mind. She shivered at the sight. She didn't want that to happen again. The idea of losing Naruto again was just too much. Now she can keep him safe. He trusts her to keep his secrets and she'll do whatever it takes to keep them. You don't have to worry about it, she said without a stutter. Naruto trusts me enough to share his secrets. I'm his friend and I'll do whatever it takes to help him. If I tell anyone about what he is without his consent, then I have sullied the trust he gave me. The violet-haired woman smiled at the determination and sincerity in the heiress's words. Great answer, Hinata. Naruto, the wizened Sarutobi called. Once you are discharged, you will be escorted by Heiichi Gekko and Ikka Yuzuki to a special training ground designed by Mr. Urahara. They are the ones who will teach you in the way of the sword. We'll be seeing you in a few days, Naruto, Kisuke reminded. Until then, rest well. With that, the four adults left the room, leaving only Naruto and Hinata alone together. Silence pervaded the air as the two had no idea what to say to one another. Nevertheless, someone must start a conversation, and it just so happens that the boy had one question he wanted to ask. Mustering all existing courage in him, he looked towards the girl sitting beside his bed. Hinata, Naruto asked in a soft voice. Beep. The poor girl squeaked in surprise. Why yes, and then Naruto. About last night, the boy started to blush a bit, do you mean it? For her part, Hinata just had a curveball thrown at her. She didn't think he'd remember since Naruto died for a moment. But still, it was unexpected. Taking a deep breath, she replied, I did. Naruto's eyes widened. He then looked towards his sheets as a faint rosy blush crept his face. He looked up once again to the girl and gave her the warmest smile before saying thank you Hinata. Silence once again permeated the room. Hinata was blushing furiously at the awkwardness of her situation. Naruto, on the other hand, was contemplating how he could have missed the signs. Her blushing and stuttering weren't her being weird. She was just shy. Hinata? Naruto asked in a gentle voice. What is it and Naruto? Can you stay with me? The blonde stammered. What? She asked with eyes wide as saucers. Can you stay with me? I don't want to be alone here. The urge to faint was strong in Hinata. If this was any other moment, she'd do just that. This was different though. Naruto now knows about her feelings and he wanted her presence. Shaking away all her shyness, at least what she could shake away, and stealing her resolve, the Haiku girl moved closer to the blonde Jinchuriki. Unexpectedly, once she was close enough, Naruto grabbed her hand and pulled her to an embrace as he lay back down on his bed. This startled the poor girl as the heat in her face skyrocketed at the minuscule proximity between them. I want to hold you, Hinata, the blonde said in a loving tone. I need you here, Hinata. Hinata merely succumbed to the warmth of his body and snuggled deeper. Whatever form of shyness within left as she enjoyed this moment with him. She almost lost him not long ago, and with the life of a ninja filled with uncertainty, moments like this are worth cherishing. With a sigh of contentment, Hinata closed her eyes and reveled in the protective feeling. I will, Naruto. I won't go anywhere. And with that, the two young genins reveled in each other's arms and fell asleep. Safe and sound together. Chapter 6. Teams and Training. Hiruzen Sarutobi, with all his knowledge and experience in the shinobi arts, can't seem to get rid of the piles of paperwork stacked on his desk. He's been at it for hours, and just when it seemed that he was reaching the end, his secretary would come in with more papers to sign. The wizened Hokage always wondered how his late successor, Minato, dealt with the massive number of documents. While pondering the possible solutions to his conundrum, a knock on the door disturbed him from his contemplation. Come in, the old man said. But the doorknob twisting and the latch disengaging, the two visitors slowly entered the room and made their way in front of the Hokage. One was a woman with bright purple hair wearing the standard Anbu vest, while the other was a sickly-looking male wearing the standard leaf flak jacket and a bandana on his head. The village leader motioned them to take a seat before starting the discussion. Good morning, Lord Hokage, both shinobi greeted before taking a seat. Good morning to you too, Ikao. Hey. You have been briefed on your roles as Naruto Uzumaki's teacher, yes? The two nodded. Good. There are, however, a slight change of plans. Does this involve the recent theft of the Forbidden Scroll? Asked a female Anbu. It does, Ikao. The third Hokage pulled out a smoking pipe from his drawer and lit it. Taking in a few puffs, the old man looked at the door as if expecting someone before continuing. Have you felt the intense power that shrouded the village during that night? This caught the interest of the two. We did, Lord Hokage, Hade answered. If the two of you were to describe that power with one word, what would it be? The two shinobi looked at each other before giving a nod. They returned their gaze to the Hokage before answering in unison. Otherworldly. The old man chuckled a bit at the accurate description before his face shifted to a more serious expression. What I'm about to tell you is considered an SSS class secret. It involves a certain shop owner in the commercial district. Hiruzen's eyes then focused on the purple-haired Anbu. I'm pretty sure you remember him, Ikao. You were there with me when they saved Naruto 6 years ago. That man. Ikao barely got out that question. Hiruzen gave the wide-eyed shinobi a nod. Yes. One Kisuke Urahara. Hiruzen performed a few hand seals and erected a sound suppression barrier. 6 years ago, on the 10th of October, 3 individuals saved Naruto from the lynch mob that was after him. They arrived just in time before one of the attackers delivered the killing blow, and when they saw the state Naruto was in, one of them unleashed the same suffocating power we felt recently. If I may ask, would this person be Kisuke Urahara? Hade asked. Yes, Hade, the old man answered. When he saw the condition Naruto was in, he was beyond furious. What we felt recently was nothing compared to what Lord Kisuke unleashed. That pressure was far more potent, and it didn't just cover the portion of the village. No, that said power covered the entire Hidden Leaf and some surrounding towns. A shiver ran down Ikao and Hate's spines. To think that a simple shop owner has that sort of power. That feat alone proved that whoever this man was, he was extremely dangerous. Lord Hokage, that was him? The female Anbu inquired. It was, Ikao. If he wasn't stopped by one of his comrades, he would have killed everyone who was part of that lynching with one strike. The wizened leader looked at the sickly shinobi. Since your partner already knows what happened next, you're going to have to hear this, Hade nodded. The pressure Kisuke Urahara released was more than enough for the mob to handle. They passed out. After that, a squad of Anbu, of which Ikgao here was part of, arrived at the scene to reclaim the Naruto. One of them, Uruchi Shimin, managed to subdue the Anbu leader that time with them at speeds that could rival the 4th Hokage's flying thunder god. It was a good thing I arrived before things escalated. Are they shinobi from other villages? Haid asked. I'm getting to that, Hiruzen replied. No, they aren't from any village. They aren't even shinobi. Then, what are they? Sarutobi knew that the answer would be hard to believe, so he wouldn't blame them if they find it ridiculous. Still, he should tell them. With a whiff from his pipe, answered the question. To put it bluntly, they are soul reapers. The room was silent for a few minutes. The two sat there staring wide-eyed at their leader, still digesting the words that came from his mouth. Finally, Hei decided to speak up. I find that hard to believe, Lord Hokage, he remarked, to which Ikgao nodded in agreement. I know it is, but would any shinobi possess that kind of power? The two ninjas thought for a moment before agreeing. The idea of a soul reaper being a singular entity isn't accurate. They consist of an army called the Courtguard 13, and they exist in the realm known as Soul Society, or Heaven if you prefer. This army is divided into 13 divisions which consist of hundreds if not thousands of soldiers. Each division has a ranking system known as seats that determines its strongest members. The weakest takes the 20th seat, while the next strongest one occupies the seat higher. The most powerful members of a division hold the rank of captain and lieutenant. Those 3 people that saved Naruto years ago, they were captain class Soul Reapers. They were the strongest. How strong? The Kunoichi questioned. Strong enough to beat a tailed beast with barely a sweat. Pei and Ikgao had dinner plates for their eyes when they found out how powerful these simple shopkeepers are. To think that a perverted salesman, a mustachioed muscleman, and a mischievous woman have enough power to make a tailed beast run for its money. After shaking off their disbelief, the 2 appointed trainers continued listening to their superior. First, we have Kisuke Urahara. The man owns a convenience store in the commercial district called the Urahara Shop. He sells ninja equipment as well as general merchandise such as clothes, household equipment, and other simple products. Before he arrived in the village, he once served as the captain of the 12th Division. He was the former commander of the detention unit under the 2nd Division Stealth Corps. His greatest achievement was the conception of the Research and Development Institute, which produced some of the most advanced equipment used by the Courtguard 13. Then we have Uruchi Shimin. She was once the heiress of a noble clan and was considered the fastest in the entire Courtguard. She served as the captain of the 2nd Division and the general of the Stealth Corps, which is very similar to our shinobi. Well known for her unrivaled speed and skill in flash step, she was hailed as the goddess of flash. She is even faster than Minato if I were being honest. Finally, there's Tessai Tsukubishi. Before their exile, Lord Tessai was considered a prodigy in the art of Kidm. He served as the captain of the Soul Society's Kidm Corps. Kidm spells are very much like Arjutsu. Only instead of hand seals, they recite incantations. Lord Tessai was so skilled that he can perform advanced spells without incantation and in quick succession. He is considered as the best in their current generation. Ikgao and Hate were in their seats trying to comprehend the fact that the village they're living in is housing 3 godlike beings. How the hell would the shinobi population react, let alone the civilians, if they ever find out that death gods are living among them? Their musings are then interrupted by Sarutobi. There's more. This perked up the 2 shinobi in the room. What I'm about to reveal concerns both Kisuke Urahara, Naruto Uzumaki, and Minato Namikaze. What is it, Lord Hokage? The 2 shinobi asked in unison. You know of the events that led to the sealing of the 9-tailed fox, right? This earned the elder shinobi a nod as he continued. Tailed beasts cannot be killed since they are beings of chakra. The only way to defeat them is to seal them. Such was the method used by the 4th Hokage when he faced the dreaded fox. He succeeded, but at the cost of his life. Tell me, what sealing method did he use? The Reaper Death Seal, answered Hade. Correct, the old Hokage replied. The Reaper Death Seal was a sealing jutsu that summons the dreaded Soul Reaper into the mortal plane to aid in the sealing. The cost, however, was the life of the caster. Suddenly, a hint of realization struck the 2 shinobi. Hiruzen saw this and made a sly grin. Lord Fourth summoned either one of those 3. The female Anbu exclaimed. Kisuke Urahara, to be specific. He helped my successor seal the demon fox into Naruto, but something happened during the process. What is it, Lord Third? The sealing process purified the demon fox's soul and bonded it to Naruto's soul while the chakra was sealed into his body. Without the fox's soul, all that chakra can be harnessed by Naruto on his own free will. This shocked the 2 shinobi as the old village leader continued. Not only that, with the 9-tailed soul fused into the boy, Naruto can now use the same powers as Kisuke, Tessai, and Uruchi. But that means Ikgao was cut off before she could finish. Yes, the wizened shinobi replied. Naruto Uzumaki has become the first living Soul Reaper. Now both Ikao and Hade understand the gravity of the situation. They're not just assigned to train a regular shinobi. They were assigned to train a Soul Reaper. A certain amount of uncertainty washed over the two Kenjutsu experts. Lord Kisuke, Lord Tessai, and Lady Uruchi will train Naruto in harnessing his newfound powers, while the two of you will train him in Kenjutsu. Lord Kisuke has already provided a private training ground that only he and his fellow Soul Reapers know about. It is imperative that you do not disclose the location of this secret training area to anyone, and you must also follow any directive given to you by the three Soul Reapers. Am I understood? Yes, Lord Hokage, the two replied in unison. Good. You are dismissed. 2 weeks have passed since the Mizuki incident. Naruto, for his part, was excited for the day. Why do you ask? It was the day for the team placements. He had been waiting for this day for the past 2 weeks, though he did have some training in using swords. After he was discharged, Ikao Yuzuki and Heiei Jekko, his appointed Kenjutsu teachers, escorted him to their designated training ground. To say that Naruto was surprised when they went to Urahara's shop would be an understatement. He didn't expect to find a gigantic training ground under the shop. The two sword expert shinobis explained to him that before the team placements, they'll be teaching him how to properly use a sword. With some supervision from Kisuke, Naruto's training went well under the guidance of the two shinobi. The results left the two teachers impressed at the rate of his learning. Naruto also met the young Kimimaro, who was now living in the shop. The young Kagaya served as the blonde sparring partner during his training, which was welcomed by Yuzuki and Jekko. Now, he was sitting in the classroom waiting for their teacher to arrive and announce the teams and their respective Junin captains. The classroom was in a ruckus until the door opened to a fully healed Iruka entering the room. The class immediately went silent in anticipation of their prospective teammates and senseis. Good morning, class, the Chunin instructor began. I would like to congratulate all of you for passing the academy. Now I'm going to dictate the teams to which you belong and your respective Junin instructor, so listen carefully. The first set of teams consist mostly of newly minted genin from civilian families. It wasn't until Iruka reached the teams that consisted mostly of the village's clan heirs that things started to become interesting. Team 7 will consist of Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sai, and your sensei will be Kakashi Haddock. Team 8 will be Shino Aburam, Kiba Inuzuka, and Yakumo Kurama, while your squad captain will be Kuranaiki. Team 9 is still active, so we'll proceed to Team 10, which will consist of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Shinjai Akimichi. Your squad leader will be Asuma Sarutobi. Naruto looked at Hinata for a moment and saw that she had the same expression as his. They were the only two students who weren't given a team and a sensei. This started to worry them a bit until Iruka spoke once again. There is a special team that the third Hokage has personally created and its members he chose personally. This will be given the designation of Team 12 and its members will be Hinata Haikta, Naruto Uzumaki, and a transfer student from the Land of Water by the name of Kimimaro Kagaya. Your sensei will be Uruchi Shimen. Oh no was all Naruto could say once he heard his new sensei. Everyone, including Iruka, looked at Naruto as if he had grown a second head. They saw the blonde shaking and trembling as if the devil was out to get him. The entire class, except for Hinata, wondered what made the boy act this way. What's wrong, Naruto? Asked a concerned Iruka. The cat lady is our sensei, Naruto said while in a shock-induced daze. Suddenly, the door opened to reveal the senseis and a white-haired boy holding a black cat. Naruto quickly recognized Kimimaro and much to his horror, so too was the cat form of Uruchi. Oh god. It's Uruchi. He yelled pointing to the feline before scrambling behind Hinata to hide. Idiot. Exclaimed Sakura. How can that cat be Uruchi-sensei? The black feline jumped from her apprentice and crawled towards Sakura. It gave her a mischievous grin before speaking in a masculine voice. You know, young lady, you shouldn't judge outward appearances. In the world of the shinobi where deception is a ninja's greatest asset, you should always look beyond what meets the eye. Everyone in the entire class, including the Junin senseis, was silent after the cat started speaking. Holy crap. A frickin' cat just spoke. A random student yelled from the back. Kiba decided to break the silence. You know, there are summons and familiars that can talk. Right. Oh, but I'm not a summon, the black cat retorted. Hinata. Cover your eyes. Yelled the traumatized blonde. The Haika heiress didn't get a chance to respond as a pair of hands covered her eyes. The black cat was slowly enveloped in a faint white light. Fumes began to leak out from its paws and as the creature grew, its cat form slowly morphed into something else. The feline stood on its hind legs. The animal form was now gone and in its place was the figure of a human, a woman. Uruchi Shimen stood in front of the whole class with a very wicked smile. All the males had blushes on their faces. The girls had wide eyes as they got a good look at the dark-skinned woman's figure. To say she was stunning would be putting it lightly. There was one problem with the whole situation. Uruchi was naked. It took a few moments for the male populace in the class to recognize this fact, and when they did, the reactions were hilarious. Every male shinobi present, even the young graduate save for Naruto who managed to hide behind Hinata and Kimimaro, all had collective nosebleeds. The sudden spray of blood that ejected from their noses launched them back from their seats, putting them down on the floor with weird looks on their faces. The Kunoichi senseis began to feel envious of Yuruchi's near-perfect figure. The female graduates all had dark red blushes. Their eyes glued to the naked woman's body. Wow. I wish I grow up to be like that one day. Were the thoughts of the young Kunoichi graduates. Seeing their reactions, the yellow-eyed Soul Reaper snickered at successfully proving her point. Kimimaro, who managed to resist Yuruchi's stunt, gave his mentor her clothes. The naked woman happily accepted the clothing and wore it immediately. After that whole fiasco, Haruka and the rest of the male senseis managed to get a hold of themselves, while all the students left with their respective Junin captains. "Where are we going, Yuruchi-sensei?" the Haiku heiress inquired. "We're going to a secret training ground that only I, Naruto, Kimimaro, and a few others know about," replied the former Shimin heiress. "Where is it?" Yuruchi stopped for a moment and looked at the pale-eyed girl. "Since you're a genin under my supervision, you'll be given the chance to train in this secret facility. I only ask that you don't reveal its location. Do you understand?" Hinata looked up to the former heiress. "Yes, Yuruchi-sensei. I won't reveal the secret training ground's location." "Good." The female Soul Reaper gave out a wide grin. "Let's go. We have some training to do." To Hinata's surprise, they didn't end up in some training field. No, they found themselves in a convenience store. She looked at her teammates and saw various expressions. Naruto seemed to be giddy with excitement, while Kimimaro remained stoic. From inside the shop came a familiar green Haori wearing blonde and a tall mustachioed muscleman wearing a blue apron. The young girl immediately recognized the older blonde as the one who brought that strange invention into their class. "Oh, Naruto," greeted Kisuke jovially while waving his open-hand fan at the newcomers. "Hey Kisuke." "Hey Tessai." Naruto greeted in return. "Hello Yuruchi," Tessai said from behind. "Are you here to use the training ground?" "Yup," Yuruchi replied. "By the way, let me introduce to you a new member of our little group," the woman said gesturing to Hinata. Kisuke looked curiously at the lavender-eyed girl. The inquisitive mind of the former R&D Institute director had previously read the abilities of the Haiku's Byakugan to see various body systems. It gave him some wonderful ideas for his latest project. "You must be Hinata Haikuga, heiress of the Haikuga clan," remarked Kisuke before looking at his fellow blonde. "Great job, Naruto. I didn't know you had a beautiful girlfriend." Beep. The girl blushed at the blonde Soul Reaper's comment. "Damn it, Kisuke. Don't embarrass her," replied the blonde. The Soul Reaper laughed heartily before gesturing the girl to come inside. "Please, come in. Don't be shy." The 3 genins and the 3 Soul Reapers entered the shop. Hinata was still wondering where this secret training facility could be. The group of 6 then arrived at a warehouse at the back of the shop. Tessai opened a hatch in the middle of the bodega to reveal a ladder. "That must be where the secret training ground is located," thought the young Haikuga. Slowly, everyone went down the hatch and made their way to the secret training ground. Waiting for them underground were Naruto's Kenjutsu masters Ikao Yuzuki and Heiichi Echo. "Wow!" exclaimed the pale-eyed girl as she turns her head trying to get a full scope of the massive facility, forgetting that she can see better with her bloodline. "It's amazing how such a massive training ground. Whoever constructed this is truly skilled." "Thank you so much, young lady," said Tessai to Hinata while wiping tears of joy from his eyes. "It warms my heart that you appreciate our efforts." "Okay, everybody. Gather up," beckoned Yuruchi to his genin. The young shinobis immediately gathered towards their sensei. "Before we begin our training session, I'd like for us to introduce ourselves first. That way, we'll be familiar with each other. You can start with your name, hobbies, likes and dislikes, and finally your ambitions. Sound good?" The 3 nodded. "I'll go first. My name is Yuruchi Shimin. I don't have that many hobbies except for turning into a cat and freaking people out. I also don't have many likes or dislikes, and as for ambition, nothing yet." "We barely got anything but her name," thought both Naruto and Hinata. "You first, Kimimaro," said Yuruchi pointing a finger to the white-haired boy. "Of course, milady. My name is Kimimaro of the Kagaya clan. I hail from the land of water and the village hidden in the mist. I do not have any particular hobbies, likes or dislikes, but my ambition is to end the barbaric nature of my clan." "You go next, young lady," said Yuruchi. "Oh okay," she stammered. My name is Hinata Haikuga. My hobbies are gardening and flower pressing. My likes are cinnamon buns, red bean soup, and she paused for a moment while looking at Naruto. The boy in question blushed a considerable shade of red while the adults watched in amusement. Hinata for her part tried to shrink into her jacket to hide from everyone before remembering that she still needed to finish her introduction. And my dream is to end the Dai division in our C clan and start a FF family. Your turn, Naruto, reminded the female Soul Reaper. Recovering from an intense blush, Naruto began his introduction. Right. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My hobbies are training, studying with Kisuke, playing tag with Yuruchi, and pulling pranks. My dislikes are the 3 minutes I need to wait to boil ramen, Tessai's punishments when I skip class lectures, and Yuruchi's cat form. My likes are ramen, pranks, and he pointed his index finger towards his lavender-eyed teammate, causing her face to redden like a tomato. Said girl was poking her index fingers together. Again, the adults enjoyed the display between the two lovebirds. They may not be a couple, but it's very clear that something was budding in their relationship. That said, it might improve team dynamics, knowing that both Naruto and Hinata would do anything for each other. Not to mention Kimiro's calm demeanor making him fit for a team leader. Yuruchi-sensei. Hinata called their sensei. What is it, Hinata? What are we going to do now? Yuruchi just gave the young girl a devious grin. Right now, we'll be testing you. All you need to do is demonstrate all the skills you learned as well as good teamwork. Well, better get ready, Yuruchi-sensei, because we're going to kick your ass. Exclaimed Naruto with much enthusiasm. I won't be the one to test you in this, Naruto, Yuruchi replied. You're not? Hinata questioned. The woman nodded. Then who? That would be me. The young ninjas followed the voice to see Kisuke with his walking cane. His eyes were hidden by the rim of his bucket hat, yet they can see his smile. It unnerved them that his trademark goofy grin was suddenly replaced by one that depicted the highest form of deviousness and viciousness. This won't only serve as a test to gauge your team capabilities, but also Naruto's start in training's Anjutsu. So, come at me with the intent to kill. Don't hold back. Bring everything to the table and show me what you got. The three young ninjas looked at each other and nodded. They turned to look at their green-clad adversary before falling into a fighting stance. Hinata went into her gentle fist stance, while Kimimaro produced bone-like protrusions from his forearms. Naruto pulled out his Zanpakuto, pointing it towards Kisuke. The said blonde grinned at the sight of Naruto's weapon. It was no longer an Asauchi. Since the incident and the sword's first awakening, the weapon's appearance has changed. The once simple-looking katana was now an elegant blade with an orange braided hilt and a circular guard with the Uzumaki symbol engraved on it. Seeing as the prospective ninjas were ready, Kisuke took his walking cane and pulled out his wakizashi. Naruto snickered at the pathetic weapon. You're going to fight us with a poking stick? He commented. Kisuke simply laughed at that jab. Thanks for the compliment, though I won't go easy on you. Then he disappeared. Naruto, Hinata, and Kimimaro barely noticed the blonde Soul Reaper's presence before they saw Kisuke about to swing his sword. They were able to dodge at the last second, but in their place was a large gash on the dirt they were standing on that's about 10 meters wide. They gasped at the damage that one swing caused. Even Kimimaro, who was always stoic, was surprised. If they were even a second slower, they would have died. You three seem surprised, commented Kisuke. His voice sounded deathly. I told you, I won't go easy on you. He disappeared again. The three stood ready. Suddenly, Kisuke appeared behind Kimimaro for an overhead slash. The white-haired boy couldn't perceive the threat, but luckily Naruto did. The young blonde quickly got in between the strike and blocked it. Kisuke's eyebrow rose a bit. Impressive, he remarked. The Soul Reaper then saw the young Hika charge at him, aiming for his midsection. He noticed that her eyes were more defined and there were veins visible around them. By Akin, he thought. Kisuke sidestepped and avoided the strike while pulling Naruto towards Hinata, causing them to collide with each other. Kimimaro thrust his palms where two pointed bone spikes emerged. The Soul Reaper deflected the thrust with a perpendicular swing with his sword. From behind, Kisuke saw Naruto and Hinata charge at him together. Naruto took the lead and jumped towards his opponent, delivering an overhead slash. It was blocked, but it bought enough time for Hinata to get in two strikes to Kisuke's abdomen. The blonde Soul Reaper hunched a bit from the attack. He didn't notice Kimimaro coming at him with a bone-encased fist to the face. The punch collided with his face, making him step back and assess the three. To say he was impressed at the teamwork would be putting it lightly. The team barely knew each other, but they were functioning as a decent squad. Quite impressive, Kisuke thought as a smile crept on his face. They may have just recently met, but they already show good signs that they'll be an effective team. They don't get in the way of each other, and they use the opportunities given by each teammate. They support each other when the other is down. This team will go far as ninjas. Impressive. Kisuke praised while clapping his hands. Most impressive. You barely got to know each other, yet you already perform better than most of the new teams we observed since we started living here 6 years ago. That said. Suddenly, the whole facility was encased in a massive amount of spiritual pressure. The three genins, including both Ikao and Hade, lost their footing and stumbled onto their knees. The only ones who seemed to be unaffected were Yuruchi and Tessai. The two shinobi managed to resist the colossal force weighing upon them, but the genins weren't so lucky. Hinata was sweating and panting heavily. This was the first time she experienced something this godly. She was at a loss on what to do. Her body began to tremble from the massive strain, the pressure pushing down upon her. So much power, she thought. We can't win. Kimimaro, for his part, felt fear for the first time in his life. Being a member of the Kagaya clan meant that they were trained to face death without any form of apprehension. They fight until the bitter end, even if it meant certain death. Kimimaro was like that, but this feeling of helplessness shook him to the very core. Naruto felt the pressure to be something similar here, at least during the incident. When he first awakened his Zanpakuto, he also emitted some spiritual pressure. This, however, was on a whole different level. Damn it. It feels like a continent dropped on us. I have no choice. I need to release my Zanpakuto. Gripping his sword tighter, Naruto released his spiritual pressure. Crimson energy flared from his body as an act of defiance to Kisuke. The blonde Soul Reaper smiled at the display of power. Finally. He's taking it seriously now. Wreak havoc, Kurama. Naruto yelled as his katana transformed and took the shape of a three-pronged kunai. Immediately, the tassel for the flying thunder god wrapped itself around Naruto's arm, making him disappear in a flash of orange. Kisuke's eyes widened at the speed the younger blonde showed. With a quick move, he managed to block the strike that came from his back. He tried to deliver his strike, but Naruto managed to flicker away before reappearing for another attack. This exchange went on for several minutes, while the rest looked on in amazement. When Kisuke was about to get a drop on Naruto with a horizontal slash, he caught a glimpse of Hinata charging at him with her byakugan ablaze. She managed to muster some strength to resist the massive spiritual pressure. Naruto managed to parry the incoming strike with his sword. The younger blonde then jumped back and plunged his weapon to the ground. The Uzumaki tassel wrapped around his arm before two golden chains launched themselves towards the Soul Reaper. Said Soul Reaper managed to push the Haiku Eris away and dodge the projectiles closing in. However, he couldn't see Kimimaro dash towards him with a bone sword in hand. Before he could even react, the young Kagaya got a slash into his green Haori, causing a tear that ran down his torso. "Very good," Kisuke exclaimed. "Your teamwork is holding up." "Well, I was severely holding back most of my strength, but still." The last statement caught the three genins' attention. "You were holding back?" Naruto and Hinata cried. "Aha," replied Kisuke as he looked over to Yuruchi. "They pass, right?" "With flying colors," replied the female Soul Reaper. "What do you mean we pass?" Hinata asked, curious as to what kind of test they were subjected to. "Oh. You see, you're not official genin yet. Well, at least before we began that little spar." "What do you mean we weren't genin yet?" Naruto asked, a bit angry as to why this was kept from them. This test wasn't just a simple team exercise. Its main purpose was to see if you could work together like a well-oiled machine, regardless of your background. With what you three showed, there's no doubt that you deserve to be officially called shinobi. "So we pass?" the younger blonde asked, wanting confirmation. "You pass," replied Kisuke. Naruto looked at Hinata, then Kimimaro, and then the rest of the adults. They were all smiling at the three new genins' accomplishments. Like a loaded spring, Naruto jumped high with a fist in the air. "We pass. We're finally ninjas, you know," he yelled in excitement. However, Kisuke interjected. "This the newly minted genin, look at him. Now begins the real training. This time I really won't hold back." Suddenly, Kimimaro felt a sharp pain course through his stomach as he was sent crashing through a nearby boulder. The young man stood up, a plate of bone covered his back and shielded it from the impact. Hinata felt a cold sensation rush through her spine. She noticed a shadow loom over her figure and saw Kisuke ready for a swing. When she saw his eyes, an intense feeling of fear froze her in place. The man had a cold, emotionless gaze. He was intent on killing her. She couldn't move. How could she? She closed her eyes and covered her face with her arms as she braced for her imminent death. Clang. The sound of metal hitting metal stirred her from her daze. She opened her eyes to see her blonde teammate parrying a strike from their opponent. "Stay back, Hinata," Naruto yelled. "I'm the only one who can put up a fight against him." With a strong push, Naruto was able to drive back Kisuke a few feet. "He's too powerful for any of us to take on, both individually and as a team. That said, I'm not about to risk your lives by fighting him for me." He pointed the tip of his blade towards Kisuke before saying, "Since I'm the only one with a Zanpakuto, I'm the only one who can go toe-to-toe with him." The tassel for the flying thunder god wrapped around his forearm and he disappeared. Kisuke placed his sword on his back to block a surprise backslash. The blonde former captain twisted his body and slashed Naruto only for it to be blocked. Again, Naruto flickered away to reappear and attack, and again Kisuke managed to block it. It went on for a few minutes and seeing as he can't get the upper hand, Naruto was beginning to get frustrated. Why the hell can't I break that piece of metal he calls a sword? He thought as both he and Kisuke pushed each other away, creating space between them in the hopes of observing the adversary's next move. You're frustrated, aren't you? Mocked the blonde sword wielder. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that just because I pulled this thin sword out of my walking cane, that this isn't a Zanpakuto. Isn't that right? You are so naive. You do know I volunteered to teach you Zanjutsu for a reason, don't you? Let me show you the consequences of underestimating me. Awaken, Benihim. Bright red energy surged throughout Kisuke's body that slowly crept into his thin sword. A thin-looking blade started to grow, and the handle morphed. With a bright flash, the light dissipated to reveal an elegant sword with decorative ornaments along its habaki and curved handle. Naruto couldn't believe what he just saw. He wasn't the only one who had his Zanpakuto. The situation just turned dire now that he no longer had an advantage. Why you have a Zanpakuto, he barely stammered. Naruto's teammates were surprised at this revelation. Kimimaro looked at the two and realized that the only advantage his teammate had just up and vanished. Hinata, for her part, was deeply worried for the young blonde. She wanted to get in there and help him, but she knew better than getting in the way and just become a hindrance. Hinata felt nothing but helplessness grip her being as she could only watch and hope that Naruto pulls through. I do have a Zanpakuto, Kisuke replied with a smug look. He looked at his weapon then back at Naruto. This is Benihim, the red princess. Like all sword spirits, Benihim has a unique personality that reflects my own. She is fierce and she will not let anything stand in her way. Let me show you with a powerful swing. A red arc of energy launched itself towards Naruto who barely escaped. What the hell? Naruto said, panting at the sudden attack. From the rubble, Kisuke emerged with a heavy swing that Naruto managed to block. Nice reflexes, the older blonde mocked. But, what's this? Are you afraid? He kicked the younger blonde in the gut and sent him skidding across a few feet. Is that the best you can do? I'm disappointed. You have great potential, Naruto. Not just as a shinobi, but also as the first living Soul Reaper. Naruto's eyes widened once he heard Kisuke's words. I'm a Soul Reaper. Yes, the other blonde replied. You are a Soul Reaper, and so are Yorichi, Tessai, and me. Why do you think we offered to train you? It's because we're the only ones who can. But seeing as you're not taking this seriously, I'm going to give you an incentive. Naruto gulped at how sinister Kisuke spoke. What would that be? A sadistic grin appeared on Kisuke's face when he looked at the boy. Your life. His figure fractured in thin air as he reappeared behind Naruto. Scream, Benihim. A blast of red energy exploded at Naruto. The sheer force of the explosion shot the young blonde up 10 feet before landing on his knees. His clothes were damaged and a small trickle of blood dripped from his face. I'm amazed that you survived that despite being frozen in fear. Just the same, if you fight me with anything less than what you're capable of, I promise you. I will kill you. What if Naruto was helped by Kisuke Urahara? End here and thanks for watching my video till the end.